Oh, hello. Well, good of you all to drop in. It's another day for PSI. And let me see, we haven't talked about this in a while, but if you're born today, August 15th.
Oh, there's some good ones today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, who did we say the birthdays were? It was
Jockey Bear, Lucas
Foss, and Oscar Peterson.
Oscar Peterson, yeah.
Oscar Peterson.
There you go.
So, there you go.
We should identify ourselves.
Oh, yeah, we should.
They probably know who we are by now.
Yeah, but, nevertheless, we might have some
You see the
newbies out
kinds of
there.
views we're getting on those shows? I don't know how much they watch. It's like, oh, yeah, there's another one for about 2 minutes. I don't know how much they're watching.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just even the recent ones, it's like close to 30 views already, like
Really?
last week.
Wow. Amazing.
And some of the older ones, more than 100, 150,
Whew.
190.
Oh, my.
Isn't that cool?
That's
So-
very cool.
I am Mark,
I'm Elmer.
and we are PSI, Piano Scene Investigations.
Yes, we are back.
This is number 29 this show.
29.
Of the ones that have made it online.
Yeah, the ones that made it.
I, in fact, I've got this little Acer computer, which I've discovered. I actually doubled the RAM in it, the random access memory, by getting an extra, well, 2 different ones that fit in the slots inside the hard drive. So it's actually pretty fast, but it was kind of really slow, really laden with a lot of different things. Because I started using it's in what we call the healing room, with part of the library. And so what I did is I got this, I think it's a 2 terabyte external hard drive, and I've just offloaded a bunch of stuff, really seriously off of it. And I'm now uploading it onto a 4 terabyte external hard drive, which is connected to my newest HP computer, which is really nice. And it's really cool because all that stuff I took off was like 230 gigabytes, I think. But it barely affects the terabyte stuff, you know. Because what is it? 1,000 is a terabyte.
You got
1,000
me.
gigabytes, something like that. But anyway, it's fine. And I was up earlier this morning, late at night, early this morning, just kind of cleaning out the computer, just speeding it up, doing the what all that stuff you call it. But anyway, she's a little just really zippy now.
Oh,
and I think I might, make more use of her because she got so slow. It's like push the button and wait for it.
Yeah.
I could have read War and Peace by the time I finished the process. And now she's like moving along. And I also have an older laptop, which has been in here in the bedroom. We have a lovely big homemade, actually, bookshelf. It's really pretty. Maybe I'd take, I don't know if you want to see the inside of my house. But I had a TV in there, which we don't watch TV in the bedroom, but basically it's there for when I'm exercising,
Yeah.
if you believe that. But when I got the new HP computer, I moved to my monster Apple computer,
Yeah.
which I had for quite a while. But Apple builds in obsolescence,
Ah.
so she quit updating after about 10 point something, maybe Mountain Lion operating system. They named after animals. I don't know where they are now, but she wouldn't update anymore. And what happens is the newest applications take more and more memory and stuff to function well, and the older systems just can't quite keep up. Well, she's in there now, and she's got a DVD player in her and everything, so
Nice.
I can watch stuff while I'm doing my exercise in there, and kind of use her. I use it to hold stuff. She's actually got a pretty big hard drive of her own, so she's got some things. But I have the oldest one I have is an old HP 17-inch cinematic screen, they called it. I bought it back when I was a professor in Europe, and I was over in the United States, and I got it from Tiger Direct out of Florida. At the time, it was around $2,000, like businessman's, really nice. And I got it refurbished. That's what Tiger Direct does. I think it was about $700 or something like that, which was a little pushy back when I bought it. But I had professor's salary and everything, and it's still an amazing instrument. I mean, the screen is really clear. It's like let's put it this way: it's like an old Rolls or one of the British cars, that's like really handcrafted, really made well. It's heavy. It's a really heavy guy. It's Windows 7, and they're Windows 11 now. So and some of the stuff won't even work on it. But I got it mostly to use probably for watching videos in there, exercising Tai Chi, stuff like that. But I cleaned that space out, and that's where George Sell and Eugene Normandy are sitting.
Oh. If you were here last week, folks, Mark had a delivery, I guess. We had unpacked a big box like this of Eugene Normandy's complete recordings from Columbia.
5 or 6 years with Columbia,
Sony
Records, but with Columbia.
And even a larger collection of George Sell.
Big square ones.
Yeah, of George Sell and the Cleveland Orchestra and a couple of other orchestras, I guess.
Big old fat look.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, huge.
I've been wanting both of those for quite a while.
Yeah.
Sal, actually, both of those artists are relatively new to me in my life. Just the way I was busy myself and focused on some other people. And I kind of didn't pay attention to the people more or less in our backyard.
Yeah.
And I am now, and like, wow. It's wonderful because there's all new stuff to listen to and really masterful performances always. Yeah. I got a few more things that showed up, so I have a little thrifter business.
Well, if you recall from last week, we touched on some of the rather, what would you call it? The rather darker side or darker elements.
Actually, we talked about that after we ended the show. You only kind of broached the subject.
Into it, a little bit. But I found these recordings from.
Well, are we going to do Thrifter?
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah,
that's how we introduced it.
Yeah, or are we going to introduce Thrifter first?
Okay, well, we can do both because it was part of that segment.
So this is a continuation of
so this is like part 2.
So this
is PSI, High Plains Thrifter.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. All right, this is going to get interesting.
You good today? You seem a little tired.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm a little bit tired.
Yeah?
We've been putting in some late hours. I've been doing extra stuff.
Yeah?
Trying to get ahead of the programs, You know, so
Well,
you'll like this.
oh, you mean for this show?
Yeah, perfect. And the next show after this.
Wow.
So I'm trying to remain at least a couple steps ahead. So,
Wow.
but we, coming up with these ideas, you got to
They're good.
really brainstorm and stuff.
I was noticing that. I mean, every show is different.
Yeah.
And there's it's the same iceberg.
Yeah.
But it's a big iceberg.
Yeah. And, history is so full of stuff. So. But anyways,
now this is very cool.
This is very interesting.
Very weird.
Now, I may have exaggerated a little bit about this story last week. I said it's sort of the darker side, right?
It is.
It is sort of the darker side. But, yeah. But,
in a way, I mean, he didn't technically do anything illegal.
Well,
because he owns the rights to this stuff.
Yeah. But
anyway, we'll fill you in.
Yeah, okay. So, I just showed you this CD. It has a pianist here named Dieter Goldmann. You could spell it out for him, I guess.
Yeah.
It's spelled Dieter, Dieter Goldmann. Goldman, sometimes two N's. Yeah. Okay? This one only has one N.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah.
I looked it up, but there's two.
Yeah, but this one has one. See? One.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so who is Dieter Goldmann? Well, let me start out by saying that I actually used to listen to Dieter Goldmann in my younger years.
There are several listings on the internet.
Yeah.
Offering for sale recordings of his, or writing something about the different works that he's recorded.
Yeah.
Things like that. I mean, reputable sources.
Yeah.
I mean, this is older fashioned stuff. It's been a few decades. But he's up on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, I have recordings of him doing exactly some of the stuff he has on laid out here. So here he has the Franz Liszt segment here, this Franz Liszt set. The Boldisch Rauschen Nomen Reigen
Concert Etudes.
Funerei. That is the Franz Liszt set. The Chopin set, we have a Mazurka in A minor, Opus 17, the Etude in A flat, the Aeolian Harp Etude. Let's see, we have here Etude F minor, which is number 2 from the Opus 25. Etude C sharp minor, Opus 25, number 7. And we have the Winter Wind Etude,
number 11.
We also have, the Ocean Etude, C minor. That is the ending of the Chopin set. We also have a Mozart work here, Rondo in D major. Kirschelberg, gosh, I think that's a 485?
I don't know.
I think it's, 480. I'm just going to say 485.
Doesn't come to mind.
Yeah. We have here the G flat impromptu, Franz Schubert. And we have a couple of Opus 117 Intermezzi by Brahms, numbers 1 and 2.
Real mainstream, familiar, popular music.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Mozart, but
yeah.
Actually, I don't know that.
Yeah, neither do I. I might know it if I saw it.
Yeah.
But Kershaw numbers were never,
So this is kind of popular repertoire.
Yeah. So okay, I'll just be honest with you. Since we're living in the internet age now, I mean, well into the internet age. Basically, the internet's 20-year-old is about 20 years old, maybe more, 25,
30.
30?
Yeah,
Okay.
It started, I think, in the 80s with the scientists.
Okay, so basically
they had it as like a digital electronic bulletin board where they would post questions, ideas, things like that to each other, and people would kind of, put something up on the bulletin board to answer and things like that.
Okay, so basically
how that started.
Yeah, so basically internet is, has entered its adulthood.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So I decided to look up who Dieter Goldmann is. Nothing about Dieter Goldmann. Nothing. You go onto YouTube and there's no entries or channels that play any Dieter Goldmine. However, what I did find is, should we say his name? I guess we can.
Why not? I think
Alfred Schultz.
well, the guy's real.
Yeah, he's a real person.
Something to say about it.
Alfred Schultz.
Albert.
Albert?
Isn't it?
I read Alfred, is what I had.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what I had. Alfred Schultz. And his last name is spelled Scholz, if that is accurate.
Schultz, yeah.
Okay. Now, he was born in 1920.
It is Alfred, yes.
Okay.
Alfred.
All right. But he could have used the name Albert.
Yeah, wow.
He very well could have.
Very, yeah, possibly. Yeah.
All right. So basically, this guy was a
Used
bit of a.
everything else.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this guy was, a phantom. But we finally nailed him down.
That's the real name.
Yeah, it is a real name.
Yeah. It's interesting because last week he said, he told me, I don't think he mentioned it on the film.
Yeah.
That you couldn't find anything about him. Well, I did find some stuff. There is some biographical material about him.
Yeah.
He graduated from a school in Vienna and he studied, maybe, with Swarovski.
Yeah.
He was a famous conductor
Nice.
and especially teacher at the Vienna Conservatory.
Yeah. I could read it out.
Okay.
Okay, well, here we go. Born 1920, Brunau, Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
He studied violin in Prague with Kalivoda and Svejda. Boy, those are some names.
I know that name, Kalivoda.
You know Kalivoda?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, anyways, while he studied violin in Prague, he did give over 300 recitals in Germany and abroad. That's 300 recitals. So he must have been quite accomplished. He eventually went to study conducting with Hans Swarovski in Vienna. And he conducted in Kapstadt and in Johannesburg and at the Mozarteum in Salzburg. So, if this is all true, if this is...
Well, as we go on, unfortunately, one can be led to be skeptical about anything.
Yeah.
About this guy. But let's go ahead.
But I'll go on. 1960, he founded his own studio in Schloss Klesheim.
Wow.
And he conducted for, well, according to what it says, conducted for records. In 8 years, he produced over 300 discs.
So it makes me wonder, Schloss what time?
Schloss Klesheim.
So I don't know if that's the name
Schloss.
of the village or because Schloss means palace.
Okay.
And it's possible, a lot of those old castles and palaces and such remain to this very day private residences. And in some cases, they're well kept, and actually it's, both in England and in Europe, there's a whole aristocratic crowd at all those places. It passed down through the generations. Maybe he had money in the family. Maybe he's from a family that was aristocratic, which would be interesting because they can be kind of slippery.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, or maybe he actually made enough money from performing for a while and so forth that he saved it and bought him a palace, which from an American point of view, we think, oh my God, millions of dollars. Not necessarily, depending on the location, depending on the situation, how long empty it stood, how much work it might need, something. But the Naxos, yes. What's the one that Shor Tchaikovsky recorded on all those wonderful recordings?
Wow.
Was it Naxos?
I never
I
heard of it.
think that's it.
There's Vox.
No. It was newer than that. I maybe just, slipping here. Is it Naxos or I'll look it up. But there was a famous, and I think they might still be manufacturing things. They started out with recorders and they were doing CDs.
He also recorded on Erotos.
No,
it's not Erotos.
This is Shor Tchaikovsky was one of the big recording artists, and I discovered him when I lived in Madison, thanks to Charles, the guy that owned that really cool little boutique music store. And I collected a whole bunch of his recordings. They loved him for his recording because what I'm getting at is that the people bought an English residence. I mean, a palace house, basically. Not queen and king stuff, but
Yeah.
somebody, an aristocratic manse, okay?
Yeah.
And they used one of the big rooms with this parquet floor and everything, a lot of wood in it, as a recording studio.
Mhm.
It's got windows. It takes, but barely. I mean, you can tell it's a lovely resonant space. And they would put minimal recording equipment in there, and to make the performer feel better, you just go and push a few buttons and then go over and sit down and do your thing.
Wow.
And then they would edit stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
But there wasn't all this like high pressure in the recording studio.
Yeah.
Just in a room so Tchaikovsky could come in, big piano there. I don't know what the medium was to do the recording. It could still be tape at that time, but you just push the record button and you walk over and sit down and play. And they loved him because one of their editorial things was to minimally interfere in the editing process with the performance.
Mhm.
So what they played is more or less what you got. And they said Tchaikovsky is wonderful because sometimes a guy just come in and like those old stories about
Yeah. What's his face?
Rusky that Moseyevich. Moseyevich famously went into London to record some of those solo pieces, Chopin and things like that. Did it all within an hour and a half, collected 5,000 pounds and walked out the door. And in many cases it was like one take, 2 takes. That was it. And they were perfect and they just, oh, this is better than that one. So
Yeah.
Tchaikovsky was like that. But it's possible, I mean, they do this a lot over there. I mean, you think about the spaciousness of these buildings, and some of the rooms are quite, at the time they were built, wow. In terms of the labor, the materials and stuff, you can't even, Elon Musk could afford to build it.
Yeah.
But most people, even rich people, would have trouble getting a hold of the materials and the craftsmen. But my point is I was curious about the name of this because it sounds like, I mean, he didn't just like move to some little village and open up a recording studio in a shed.
Yeah.
Schloss means palace, so I think it means that he opened his business in a palace. And it's curious to me, where did he get the money for it? But then go on with your story.
Okay. Well, let's see. Where did we stop? Okay, all this information I've mentioned so far comes from an article called Conductors on Record. It was written by John Holmes, Greenwood Press, Westport, Connecticut, 1982.
Now, what John Holmes was that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry? Don't know.
You know, famous John Holmes. No, you don't. Never mind.
Probably not.
We won't go there.
All right. Anyways, that John Holmes. Yeah.
From Ohio.
I know who you're. What?
Yeah, he was from Ohio.
He is?
Was. He's dead.
Or he was.
He died of AIDS.
Yeah. Oh, okay. God,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Mr. Bratwurst, so to speak.
Oh, God. Let's not go that. He was right. We shouldn't have gone there. All right. Anyways, so.
Well, this story's open to all kinds of places.
Yes. So. Anyways, for more information about Alfred Schultz, I bring you to an article called Pseudonyms. You can easily find it on the internet. It's called Pseudonyms, Alfred Schultz and the South German Philharmonic by one John F. Berkey, B-E-R-K-Y, Berkey. And in this article, he talks about how he created this South German Philharmonic Orchestra. And it was actually created, this orchestra, in 1968. And they were actually members from the German Philharmonic in Prague.
Yeah.
And they were expelled from Czechoslovakia post-World War II. Later, years passed by, they would eventually come back again, and they would become the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
Remember the Bamberg?
Bamberg is really cool place in Germany. I've been there 2 or 3 times. They have great music there. There's a great chorus, great orchestra. There's a great great piano professor there at the University of Bamberg. He came and played in Cyprus, actually.
Wow.
A wonderful pianist. They're famous for their Rauchbier, smoked beer.
Smoked.
It's a really dark, smoky kind of heavy beer.
Have you had it?
I tried a little bit, but it's not my kind of thing. I'm a lighter beer, like a Pilsner kind of guy. And there's a famous, the Bamberg was a huge famous place for the persecution of witches. And there's a famous museum there.
Wow.
With the building back from those hundreds of years ago.
Holy moly.
With the tools of torture and everything down.
Oh, you've got to be kidding.
Basement and everything. I mean, it's
they
all there.
saved it?
It's all, the stuff's all there. Yeah. Bamberg, I think, was one of those, I don't know if it was a principality or more so, I think it was one of those archbishopy or bishopy kind of towns, cities that was controlled more specifically by a church leader. But it's a very interesting place, and I associate it with, it's kind of a pretty romantic kind of setting, with the bridges crossing the river going through the city.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the spirit of the town is so embodied with the Middle Ages.
Uh-huh.
It was a big, important place in the Middle Ages, and for a while, a lot because of persecution of witches.
Wow.
And there's an energy there which is, I don't think it's evil, but it feels ponderously heavy to me. When I've been there, it's like food is heavy, the beer is heavy, the history is heavy. Music making is very good.
Wow, that's interesting.
Bamberg Symphony, I've got some recordings on LP.
Yeah, I have some on the cassette recordings with, I think Hans Swarovski was actually.
I think so. We might have been connected with him,
Now, as we continue on here, so that is all the information I have on Alfred Schultz. Now, if you look on the internet for Alfred Schultz, you're going to notice that he comes under 50 different aliases.
Yeah, oodles of them.
Oodles of them. And even the orchestras that supposedly he conducted.
There's a paragraph of probably more than 20 different named ensembles.
Yeah.
None of which probably really
existed.
existed.
Yeah, they have a name for it here. Let me see. They call them, in this music industry, if you can call it that. I use that word loosely, folks.
Yeah.
Pickup orchestras.
There you go. So I'm thinking of that. Exactly.
Ensemble.
Because that's actually not unusual. Like the Columbia Symphony Orchestra in California that was assembled for Bruno Walter.
Mm-hmm.
So he had an orchestra to work with, and there's wonderful performances. He did some Beethoven. I've got an LP with Beethoven 3, probably on CD, but most importantly, his Mahler recordings he did late in his life. He did with this symphony. And they were plucked out of Hollywood and Los Angeles Phil, and like all around there. And they were a pickup orchestra. The movies would use that a lot. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a standing orchestra, maybe like in the big studios, but more than not, the calls just went out. They needed so many people or these instruments or this or that. So it's not wrong, and you could call yourself whatever you want.
But it's but to claim that, well, I'll tell you the part that's actually wrong. They were actually able to verify some of the authenticity of some of these recordings. And there's only maybe 3 or 4 of them that were actually authenticated.
Right.
And
for example, that German, Southern German Philharmonic,
Yeah.
That really was an ensemble that did it
Yeah.
for him for a little while.
Yeah, for a very small one.
But not to the extent that the recordings to which they're credited for.
Right, exactly. Now, the two names that did pop out in some of the articles, there's two of them. One was Michael Geelan. Recognize the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came out with a couple of recordings.
He's real.
Yeah, he's real.
And
Michael,
quite well known in Europe and in Germany especially, and he's really a rather renowned Mahler interpreter.
yeah. And he recorded with Orazio Frugoni, the piano concerto by Chopin. Yeah. So his recording has actually been verified. I don't recall which Bruckner symphonies they were. Now another one, and this one surprised me, is Skrovichevsky.
Stanislav
Skrovichevsky.
He's also big time.
Yeah, very big time. He's recorded with Earl Wild, for Pete's sakes.
Was he ever connected with Minneapolis at some point?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think he was.
I
think he had been like a guest conductor.
I looked, but I think
conductor,
I've seen his name in connection with Minneapolis Symphony.
But Earl Wild has nothing but stellar comments about Skrovichevsky. He says he's one of the finest conductors, so he's very good. And this guy on this label, they released a recording of him conducting the Mahler's Ninth, or Bruckner Ninth.
Goldman?
No.
Oh, the Schultz guy.
The Schultz, Skrovichevsky's recording is, all right, let me say it again. Skrovichevsky's recording of Bruckner's Symphony No. 9 is actually on this label. And the problem with it is, and there's no exception to any of the copies, it only records the third movement, then the second movement, and then the third movement again. So it's not even complete. There's no first movement in any of the releases.
Could show this to them again with the emphasis on the series title.
Okay.
That Vienna Masters Series thing, used to be able to find that. There were real bargain bin prices for them in like Camelot Records, for example, back in the day. And now, most of the time when you see these things, they don't make them anymore.
Oh, no,
but you see this stuff in thrift stores and used record places, things like that. Are you going to tell them what the source of a lot of this stuff is, or do you know that?
Well, okay.
Because I found some information.
All right. So what I've discovered here, let me see if I can find it. The recordings were actually. The source of the recordings were actually founded in, oh gosh, I know I wrote it here somewhere. There they are. They were actually made from analog recordings, whatever those are. Analog recordings.
Analog is before digital.
Yeah, they date back from 1968 to 1970. There is no record as to whether he actually bought the rights to these recordings, or I mean, there's even rumored stories that he actually stole them.
I saw that it suggested that he bought them, but they were apparently recordings that were made for Austrian radio.
Yeah.
But maybe what's interesting is that it's not credited. Now, for example, who's the great female conductor who studied at Bernstein and directed?
Marin Alsop.
Marin Alsop is a director of one of the big radio orchestras in Vienna now. She's gotten around. She was a Bernstein protege.
Yeah.
I remember I met her a few times out in Colorado in Denver. She was director of the Colorado Symphony for a period of time. She's good at what she does.
She's very good.
It's, back in the day, I mean, everywhere actually, most big radio stations here in America, but definitely in England and all over Europe, they had orchestras in the radio stations.
Yeah.
Some of them more famous than others. RAI is the stuff associated with Italian radio, and there's an Italian radio orchestra. And of course BBC. Wow.
Yeah.
Still to this very day. The BBC Orchestra started out as a radio orchestra, and they've grown into being one of the significant orchestras in that little island country. But I don't know necessarily when these recordings were made back in the 60s. Austria historically was interesting because it was Hitler's homeland, a lot of somewhat infamous people from there.
Oh, yeah.
And after the war, some questionable people that lived there came to power. There's a lot of, Ziegfeld kind of stuff that kept going on quietly and everything. But Austria was interesting. It was especially, it wasn't neutral, but it was a special kind of country. It was somewhat independent of the Western Bloc in a way. And there was certain kind of kindly overtures to the east, a little bit, because Vienna was right there, and just another few miles, boom, and it's the Iron Curtain, I think, is it called The Third Man, this wonderful movie that Orson Welles did of the spies, right?
Yeah.
In Berlin and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool stuff. You look at movies and different things, a lot of spy stuff and Cold War stuff that went down. But Vienna, I think I'm right about it. Well, Berlin is smack dab in the middle of everything. But otherwise, Vienna was, I think, the closest major world city that close to the communists. There's a lot of cloak and dagger, a little shady, little that stuff going on. So, we both looked up this information.
Yeah.
And it does not attribute any particular ensemble to the making of the recordings. But they do believe that a lot of them, because they play at least once a week or every day or God knows what. Gunnar Johansson, when he lived out in California, in San Francisco, he did weekly performances. That's how he ended up playing all his repertoire, Beethoven, Bach, Mozart and stuff. That was one of his jobs. I think it was weekly, that he did basically a concert on the radio every week. That was entertainment.
Yeah.
Anyway, this stuff was recorded. Schultz got his hands on it.
Oh, yeah.
As to whether or not he actually purchased it or not, presumably he started to release Vienna Master Series type recordings. Quite a lot. And the interesting thing too is that I remember this, the ensembles.
Yeah.
Just like, wow, where are they?
Yeah.
Who are they?
Who are they?
Or then the soloists or people like that. Wow, I never heard that guy. Wow, he plays piano.
Yeah.
But technically, if he bought the rights to those recordings, he can do whatever the hell he wants with them.
Yeah.
And especially if there's no attributions originally given to the performers or anything like that, who's going to come forward and say, I was in that orchestra, I want my 10% royalty?
Yeah.
Your name's not anywhere on the list, so.
Yeah.
And when I was talking with Elmer last week, I was kind of curious. I thought, he did form the Southern German Philharmonic from Germans who were forced out of Czechoslovakia after the war. The Germans lived all over the place during the Nazi period because Hitler and they needed Lebensraum, a place to live.
Yeah.
And they lived all the way up into the Baltic states. Historically they were there anyway, but they really spread, especially into Eastern Europe. And, that's a sad tale of everything because a lot of certain kinds of Eastern Europeans were displaced to make room for the Germans. And I actually know some older people who are in the Minor Corps organization who were very, very young Now they're pretty old because it was the time of the Second World War, the conclusion. But yeah, I heard him tell some stories about wagon trains and the people. I mean, all of Europe was on the move at the end of the war.
Yeah.
Everybody was relocating one place or another. And of course, the Germans need to get back to Germany, if anything, to be hopefully safer, because they figured, and there was retribution against them. Well, deserved or not. There's, interestingly, in the Crimea, in the island that Russia took over back in 2014, there was a German settlement on that island. And there's a woman, she's still alive, both her and her husband are still alive. She's got to be at least in her early 90s now. But she did retire from singing with the Damen Corps, the women's chorus. But she talked about how her family escaped the Russian bombing of Crimea against the Germans that were there. And they took boats and went across the Black Sea to Odessa.
Wow.
And then got on land and then on whatever and started heading west. And her family got split up. And it was something like 2 or 3 years before she saw one of her brothers again because they got separated. There's another guy, Udo, who was German from Romania. And he talked about how his family, he was a little boy when it happened. He was actually part of the movement to find their way westward. And I knew some folks whose families had been living in Poland and had to go back. One of the things I thought perhaps, rather than paint the guy entirely as bad or pirate or whatever, there's a possibility in some of those cases, if these people were not allowed to earn money, or if they were still living in the East where they could not earn Western money, but they were, it could have been a reason for him to make up all these names, and they'd make money on this stuff,
Right.
And then maybe, I don't know, I'm just being kind of big-hearted and big-minded about it. Maybe he was trying to do these musicians, some of them, a favor.
Favors,
Because I don't know how much of it went into his own pocket or what he did, but it's kind of an interesting and weird story because he made so many commercial releases and they made some income. But I mean, how much? Because that's, I mean, the guy who bankrolls the stuff usually gets a good cut from it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does.
But on the other hand, he seemed to really have his hands in all of it, like really hands-on work. Producing work is really hard. It's really time and energy consumptive. And I just think that he could have made his money better than this. So if anybody knows, this is a good one. This is a really good one. We got somebody who wrote in a comment for our last show.
They
did. You look? Yeah. I don't know, maybe you know what it is. But he was commenting about Diogenes. Because I made that mistake. I said Diogenes, Demosthenes. Demosthenes is the one who put the rocks in his mouth to learn how to speak properly. I put my tongue in, he learned how to speak correctly. Diogenes was a real cynical, critical guy. He lived in a huge, what do you call it, this big clay urn out in the streets or something like that. That picture I put up with the doggies, that was Diogenes. Anyway, some guy wrote in comments about it. But folks, this could become a really cool thing. Like, help solve the mystery. Who was this Alfred Scholz? Scholz. And this guy's the pianist in this recording
Yeah.
is actually listed on perfectly reputable places selling his recordings or mentioning historically the recordings.
Yeah.
There's even a photograph of some guy on one of the pages that I saw that purports to be that guy.
Dieter Goldman?
Yeah, but it's a very fuzzy picture and it's a little hard to see.
Huh.
And there's something about the whole thing that just seemed a little
odd.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Like, for example, was Dieter Goldman a real guy?
Yeah.
Are you Dieter Goldman's grandson? You know, can you speak to this stuff?
Yeah,
Because we're not trying
please.
to trash on anybody.
Yeah.
That's not really what we do.
No.
But this one was curious. I mean,
Yeah, it was very curious.
I mean, in the oldish days of recording, really old days.
Yeah.
In some cases, and probably more than not, that really happened. There's a lot of non-attribution performances, you know. I saw a wonderful show one time. Do you know what the word is? I can't think of it now. It was a play that I saw in Tucson, Arizona, at a nice theater. And Sideman. Do you know what a sideman is?
Enlighten me.
Sideman in more with jazz music
Okay.
is part of a pickup ensemble.
Oh.
So the story is based upon the true life story of a guy who played trombone.
Okay.
And he was a sideman. He got picked up to do recordings with various more famous artists and people like that. This is part of the orchestra.
Oh.
So you come in, you rehearse, you get performance, and here's your money.
Oh. And that's what a sideman is.
That's what you get. And there's no attributions, there's nothing listed. You know that in the old days in Hollywood, you know how it is now. When you see a Hollywood film, you can sit there for 15 minutes and watch the credits. And because I'm a performing artist, you know, if it's a good movie, out of respect, I sit and read the credits.
I know, so do I! So do I!
Come on, these poor people. I mean, this is their job. This is their livelihood.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, oh, that's a cool name. Oh, there's a lot of Koreans in this movie.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You know. In the old days, you remember movies.
Yeah.
It would be like a little list at the beginning, the cast of characters. And I think it's because the tradition was taken from the theater.
Yeah.
And then at the end, well, or maybe sometimes at the beginning there'd be that little list of primary people like the wardrobe, costumes, maybe music director.
Yeah.
Sometimes nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
That Bakalinikoff guy gets credit a lot.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, with the music, it's like all this stuff like this is the source that we drew from, and the original performers, and this is the orchestrator, and this is the guy that did the keyboard stuff, and all kinds. It's all mostly attributed. Well, I think that's nice because I think probably it came from unions and stuff that kind of felt their people should get their
due.
Their due
Recognition.
And it doesn't. I don't know how they do it out there. I can't believe they pay royalties to the little teeny mice in the production. Yeah. They probably give them a set amount, and that's what you get paid for it. But this guy somehow released. I mean, there's a lot of these Vienna Master Series CDs floating around, all kinds of stuff. And again, it's you see, and you just get this impression from this. Oh my God! Does every little village in Europe have an orchestra? And fabulous, you know, musicians and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well,
the Bavarian Radio State Orchestra. I've seen that one too.
Yeah. Well, isn't that a real one, right?
I don't know. I wonder if it is.
That was.
I was going to mention.
Is that the one that Simon Rattle took over? I think
it could be.
There's two of them. Well, there's Munich, and then there's I think the Bavarian Radio State Orchestra. Yeah. That Simon Rattle actually was in Berlin, went a little bit to London, and went back to Germany. Yeah. And I think he's directing them now. That one was famous because Bavarian Radio is going back into the 50s. I have to look it up. Hans, somebody, really famous conductor. Oh, Raphael Kubelik.
Raphael Kubelik.
I think worked with Bavarian radios. So it's a big deal over there.
Yeah.
And I mean, with all the world travel and work that she's done, what's her name again?
Marin Alsop.
Marin Alsop. This is a big deal for her to be in charge of this Viennese radio orchestra. So I don't know, we're talking too much about it. It's just, but people, I think this would be a wonderful forum topic.
Mystery.
Because if you know anything about this stuff, or the history of this stuff, if you're Europeans, it might be closer to the truth than we are over here.
Now,
how did this happen?
Oddly enough, on the upper left-hand corner of the CD case, and I noticed that it's well hidden. Look at the word that's right here. What does that say? Pills. Yeah. I've often wondered what that was. Because it's just, for some reason, they had it subdued there. And somehow it's hard to see and notice unless you were really, really looking for it.
What's this say back here?
Yeah,
I can't see that clear. Is that the same word?
It's the same exact word.
Pills.
Pills, USA, Los Angeles. Pills, Great Britain. Pills, Spania.
That's another thing to look up.
Pills, Italy. Pills, Frankreich. Pills.
France, yeah.
Pills, Japan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Odd, isn't it?
Well, you do that in order to get past international barriers by having a corporate representation in all these different countries. That way you can bypass import and customs kind of things because you have a representative agency in that country.
Yeah.
So technically you can do business. You've already established the right to do business.
But I sort of look at this equivalence of the fine print. It's like when I look at it.
Octopus, right?
Yeah.
This is serious octopus business.
Oh, yeah. Now, strangely enough, looking at this series, and I've had lots of experience looking at these recordings, I noticed that there's a few CD recordings, particularly of Bach and Beethoven sonatas, and they are recorded by one Dubravka Tomczyk. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I did see that name listed in the stuff. She's for real.
She's for real.
Yeah.
Dubravka Tomczyk. I have I used to be a subscriber to a magazine called Piano Today, and she was a featured artist on the cover.
That's a Czech name.
Yeah.
Bohemian kind of thing. The Tomczyk.
Yeah. And there's another name I was surprised to find on the thing, and it was Peter Toperzer, Toperz or Czer.
Toperzer.
Okay, yeah, and I've seen his name on these things too.
I remember years ago I've seen that name. Yeah.
And it's his recording of the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto.
Really?
Yeah, so he's a pianist, and I think he's for real too. So there's at least a couple names on this.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know what happened in Europe, like I talked about and showed that French Piano Concerto CD collection.
Yeah.
There was a period of time, come on, there's a lot of people that graduate from all those wonderful conservatories in Europe.
Yeah.
And the way the Europeans are, you know, with the state support of the arts and things like that, as much as possible. And I know that Europe is much more like world culture now, but it's still Europe.
Yeah.
And they have always prized classical music in a way that it's innately a part of their culture and their history.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a place for the class of artist and musician in traditional European culture, where that's a hard won and a hard fight here in the United States. You know, you don't produce a product that's tangible that somebody else can use. You know, what good are you? It's that kind of capitalist history. And yet we have some of the finest artists in the world that we do it, but it's a different system here in America. But you got to think, like, there's a wonderful pianist named Marilyn Dosse, D-O-S-S-E.
Yeah.
And I learned something about her. I first knew her name because she plays a number of these recordings in the French Piano Concerto collection.
Yeah.
And then I found her name and I bought some CDs. And we put them up on, mentioned them shows ago.
Oh, yeah.
And the interesting thing is that as a younger woman, she was discovered and brought to the United States by Paul Badrascola. He was in America for a period of time because he and his wife were both on the faculty at Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He was an artist in residence, and his wife is a very renowned musicologist, as he is in a way himself too.
Yeah.
And I think he was there. He was the artist teacher for about 10 years or something.
Wow.
But anyway, Doss came over in some kind of under his wing, and he introduced her. And I forget now where she is or was, but she began to teach in the United States. As far as I know, the last I heard, she's still in the United States. I mean, older now,
yeah.
But living in, I think she might have a lady friend that she lives with somewhere. Might have been in Texas for a while, but I think then Pennsylvania or somewhere. But for example, who is Marilyn Dawson?
Yeah.
Well, she recorded, and I have it.
Yeah.
That's how one of the things I bought. The complete solo piano music of Camille Saint-Saëns.
Yeah.
And the girl can play.
Oh gosh, you
But
have to be able
Saint-Saëns
to.
was not simple stuff.
Oh no, it
He
was.
was one of the most fleet pianists in history.
Oh yeah.
You know?
And that's not easy work.
No. And you know, he had that kind of French way. It was a school, you know?
Yeah.
It was kind of nonchalant, facilement. You know, just play and then watch them fingers run. Kind of Liszt Parisian style.
Yeah.
But without the hair necessarily
Yeah.
flying and all the theatrics.
Yeah.
And that's all her. Well, and this is what we're about. We're about this massive classical music, not primarily, but to some extent focused on piano.
Of course.
Iceberg that is the accretion of all of the people and moments and situations and places and everything that have been part of this story of classical music culture.
Yeah.
And maybe this guy found a way to make a living. I mean, because who is he?
Yeah.
He played 300 concerts.
300 recitals.
Supposedly.
That's what it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yet,
Supposedly, baby.
and yet, he's no Isaac Stern or Yasha
Oh,
Heifetz. Well, let's say maybe he was, but he didn't have the connections and the media savvy. You know,
the marketers and stuff.
So who knows? Maybe he's a guy who found a way to get all some money. Maybe he didn't have it all himself. Maybe he had private, quiet investors that bought the palace and put all this together, and ended up making and releasing recordings by these otherwise completely unknown but completely worthy performers. You know, people maybe they get all the money, you know, for their stuff.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Oh yeah, I'd like to think of the best.
Because I don't think this, as internationally widespread as it was, could have gotten along as long as it did if it was a major pirate crime syndicate kind of stealing other people's work and representing it as their own kind of thing. I think somebody would have sued.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they would have.
Or, depending on certain countries, had them killed.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah. If anything, you know, he at least helped in a much affordable way. You know.
Yeah, this
brought
stuff was
classical
cheap.
music to the public.
And in some cases, this stuff they almost give it away to you now.
Yeah.
Well, this is cool.
Yeah, this is really
it makes for a really good story.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and again, we would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, if anybody knows anything about
this stuff.
Yeah. So,
now, the one thing I thought was interesting is with this Goldman guy. Now, I mean, come on. That big box set of Chopin's music that we have with Horacio Fragoni, Guillermo
the Mercury Hill.
Yeah, now they're all pretty famous pianists.
Oh yeah, they're very well known. All of them.
But I would tend to think even not well-known pianists have a certain way of playing the instrument.
Oh yeah.
There'll be a certain voice in their singing tone there'll be certain characteristic things that they'll do with rhythm and rubato and things like that. Am I wrong about that?
Oh no, you were absolutely correct
Is
about
it really possible to have rubber stamped pianists that all sound the same?
Well,
I kind of doubt it. I mean, I don't. Yes, probably.
You'd have to look awfully deep, though.
But
paying attention.
The
listening.
whole point of the art form is not to be that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that's one of the reasons why whenever I coach people, vocal singers or teaching pianists and stuff, well, Rachmaninoff plays it like good for Rachmaninoff.
Yeah.
Why do you want to sound like Rachmaninoff?
He's already done
it. With the singers especially, I'd say, well, your voice doesn't really sound like that, so why would you try to do that? Why don't you just do what you can do with your voice and your interpretations? Like Rubinstein famously said, when they bring in these little proteges and stuff, oh, he's a second Paderewski or he's a second Rachmaninoff. And Rubinstein would say, well, that's unfortunate because the world's already heard Paderewski and Rachmaninoff. What does he have to say? Very good point.
Very good point. Very good.
So, I was thinking like with the Goldman guy.
Yeah. It's a nice
Even if he's not real.
Yeah.
Anytime they put his name on a recording.
Yeah.
I don't really care to do this myself because I don't care that much about this. But if somebody were truly, I don't know, a little nuts and want to really focus on it, you could listen to a few different recordings and see, is this the same pianist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, with certain people you can't make a mistake, but I mean, honestly, I've got a lot of recordings with different pianists and there's Beethoven performances. Yeah. And there's some which you just, that's Schnabel, that's probably Brendel, just like this. But none of them sound the same.
Oh no, they don't sound
even the ones who I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So, if it's not the real name of the artist, then one way you could tell that they're probably not the same pianist is, even though it might be the same name, it doesn't sound
quite
like they're playing
part of their MO as far as the way they approach pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's a certain kind of stamp that an artist has, I think, or they want to have to put on their music.
Well, this was more of a. I picked up this recording mostly because of my childhood. Okay, I mean it was one of the things that I grew up with. When
you bought these originally from like Camelot, right? Is that where you
this
first
one?
got
No, actually, I found this.
No, I know, but when you used to have these recordings, I remember that they were Camelot. I thought they were one of these cheap European import things.
Yeah, exactly. They had a bunch of cassettes in this little pile over here, not like in the bottom, just some shelves here with cassettes.
That's right.
And all the records were on top.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you look through the file, you filed through all the records, and some of them were too expensive, so you went down here to the cassettes, and they were actually cheaper.
Yeah.
So, originally, you found these little generic type pictures of, cartoon-like pianists sitting there all elegantly like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's no photographs, right?
Right. There's no photographs. There's no
biographical information.
There's no information on the history of the composition or the composer. They just tell you the name of the composer and the name of the piece, and that's it. Now, interestingly enough, they actually put in, for Funerai, they put it in 2 other languages, I guess. Yeah. So, anyways.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we said that because that was a bit of a conversation.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to see it continue, really. Of all the different things that we broached, there have been some cool topics.
Oh, yeah, we've had some very...
But this one, I mean, it has a presence on the iceberg.
Yeah.
But there's a very I mean, let's put it away. The water and the accretions around this one on the iceberg is pretty murky stuff.
Yeah.
And I prefer to maybe take a generous approach to the person,
Yeah.
because I don't want us to get we don't mean to ever
Yeah.
dirty mouth or
Yeah.
trash anybody, because everybody's doing their part
Yeah.
to make music, to
Yeah.
contribute to things. And I think what I mentioned about, why the motives for why he might have done what he did,
The possibilities.
it could have been possibly a gracious
Yeah.
effort. As I said, I do think that if it were completely scandalously criminal,
Yeah.
it couldn't have lasted as long as it did.
No.
In this industry, the music recording industry
Yeah.
is competitive enough and vicious.
Oh yeah.
And especially if somebody has the rights to something and then you release it. I mean, like, this is why we don't play music on this show.
Yeah.
You have to have a special permission to do more than a
Yeah.
30-second spot. And, my feeling is like, what the hell are you going to hear in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about the music, to encourage you to look into things yourself. But yeah, I also think if it were pirate criminal stuff, because that stuff's out.
Mm-hmm.
Famously, pirated recordings of Horowitz.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's a box set that's available now.
Really?
Because he's dead and
Yeah.
Rhonda's dead, and there's no children or anything
Yeah.
like that. There's a box set out of, how do you say it? Unofficial, unreleased.
Yeah.
Unauthorized
Unauthorized.
recordings.
Unauthorized.
I think I did save it in my wish list, but it's like over $200, and it's substantial.
Oh,
There's a
gosh.
lot of stuff in it, and it's all what one might call pirated,
Recordings. Oh god.
or things that were tossed aside and said, no,
Yeah.
just no, we're not going to do that. But it's interesting because there's a lot of repetition of some repertoire.
Yeah. Of course.
But they're different takes or different words. With somebody like Horowitz,
Yeah.
they said in many cases
He would
he
never
made
play
a
the
point
piece.
for it to be different every
Yeah.
time.
Never played it more than the same way twice.
Rubinstein's interesting because they said the way he played, it wasn't so much that he was manufacturing some kind of interpretive moment, that it just got better and more natural, and like he would start like at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and by 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd be in the zone, and just doing stuff, and and those would be the recordings that they'd usually take.
Yeah.
People said he was indefatigable. The more he played, the more enthusiastic and excited he got. He'd come into the studio, let's listen to this one, smoking a big old stogie and all that stuff. Let's go out and try it again. I'm going to go try it again. And the recording engineer said, it'd come like early morning, there'd be days of this, or weeks, depending on what he's doing. And he was always just coming in, very energetic, and he'd leave in the morning. And says, let's go have a coffee and some breakfast.
Why?
I'm going to go home and sleep, okay?
Yeah. So you go have breakfast.
You go have breakfast.
Knock yourself out. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah. So I think that there probably is. I would prefer to think there's a better than not good story behind that.
Yeah.
So I thought we made a couple good guesses about what it might be and why, how it was. But if you guys know anything, it'd be really cool to hear.
Would love to know. So you have some stuff to show us here, huh?
I've been getting a few more things coming in. You want me to go?
Here we go.
It's not really big. I won't take all the time.
All right.
I'm still on my Ives kick. I ordered some things, as I said. The great thing for me, taking an interest in this, is what did you say? Ives is not a big.
He's not a box seller.
Yeah, he's not a big
box office hit.
Yeah. So, but this is wonderful. A recording I got.
Okay.
I'll give them both to you,
so
you can show them at the same time.
Okay.
This is the Emerson String Quartet.
Oh.
but when they were really young. I mean, they're so because they just retired this year.
Yeah.
I think they did the final concerts this year, and wonderful. People raved about it and stuff, but I'm sure they want to stop and take some time to live their life now because they're older gentlemen now.
Yeah.
These like guys with like hair.
They have hair.
Yeah.
They have. Let me see.
Oh, lots of hair.
Let me see.
So this has Charles Ives' first and second quartets and a scherzo, and the Barber quartet all together.
No way!
That's way back. That's like the 80s, right? Probably.
Yeah, that's probably right. That's about 80s.
This one
That's too
is
funny.
a 3-disc Vox set by a pianist named Alan Mandel. Is it the complete works? I don't know.
Oh my gosh!
Here,
let me show. Hold on. Let me show this one first. For some of you who are familiar with the Emerson String Quartet, I don't believe this. They actually do have hair. Look, isn't that a riot? They were good-looking guys too. Look at them.
I mean, come on, that's one of the great American ensembles.
Yeah.
They just retired, I think, this year. They did their final concerts. And they've been going for like 40. But, there's ones before them. There's Juilliard, Guarneri. Rubinstein liked the Guarneri so much that he recorded some of the piano quartets and quintets with them later on in his career. He went to hear them. The story was he went to hear him at a concert. I don't know if it was one or the second concert, but that he was so impressed. And there was something about the way they played that reminded him of past ensemble playing. And he went backstage. Can you imagine that? They're younger guys, because they were like in their early 30s or something like that.
Imagine,
Rubinstein is like 70s. And can you imagine that? You're in the green room, just played a concert, the excitement, the relief of all that.
Drinking your champagne.
And in the door walks Arthur Rubinstein. Can you imagine that? And
all silence.
And it's like, God shows up, concert. And he congratulates him and everything. And then, you guys be interested in playing some of the piano chamber music stuff? You? Yes! And I've got those on LP, and then of course they've been put on CD as well. So anyway, this other thing of Ives, and I don't really know what the opus is of Ives. It's sad that there's a big sticker over part of this. There's a lot of stuff on here, 3 CDs. And I just admire the fellow for his devotion.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Concord's on here, of course. But there's 3 sonatas, a whole bunch of studies, different things like that. Name's Alan Mandel.
Yes, I remember the name.
And you know the name?
I know the name, Alan Mandel. Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff there. And
I think he also has a Liszt album too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I especially admire, for someone, as I talked about Ives last time, I think he's a master composer. He's really extraordinarily in control of his craft. And, of course, puts massive requirements on the performers.
Oh, yeah.
But I find that if they're up to it, the music is worth it because it's really solid stuff,
Yeah.
So good for him. I haven't had a chance to listen to it. This stuff was just arriving in the last
I
day
have
or
a
two.
copy of Southpaw Pitching.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Softball pitching. I wish I had thought of that.
Then I got something that I had ordered a while back.
Yeah.
When I ordered the George Sell, for example.
Yeah.
This is pretty good. This is, jeez. These glasses are not the best. I should have another pair over here. So there's 3 string quartets of Brahms and the piano quintet. Again, the Emerson with Leon Fleischer.
Oh, Leon. gosh, wait a minute. He's an old guy in here.
Fleischer?
Fleischer.
Yeah.
He's going to do the Brahms Quintet.
Well, I don't know how old he is, but you know there was a period of time when he could play with both hands again for a while.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if that's when this was done. How old are the string players, by the looks?
Oh, they look like they're in their 60s,
Okay.
perhaps.
So
early
it is
70s.
possible. You know, he had that surgery done for a while, right? He supposedly was coming back.
Yeah.
He has a focal dystonia in his right hand.
Yeah. I have a recording of his where he just entitled the CD Two Hands, and that's it.
Huh.
And it's got his hands right there in the front,
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
So, and he plays for Elise on the thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's among other things. You know, there's more stuff on it.
No, it lasted for a little while. He came out and he did some performing, but then it didn't last. It went back to left hand only. Wonderful performance of the Ravel concerto for left hand.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure you did. So here, I'll show it to them.
Yeah.
There's the man. Cool, isn't it? Yeah, Fleischer.
Then I have something
Big fan.
non-musical, but I thought it's me. You guys see my stuff back here. I've got all kinds of books about things, but anything to do with history and art and stuff. This was the book that attracted me because there was an article in my Google News feed about the architecture at the Smithsonian. And it had an advertisement for the book in the article. I went to Amazon and I found a used copy. I got all these things really cheap, like I don't know if any of them were $10, but I think I got them all for like $30. This is the first one that I ordered.
Ooh.
And then because of that,
Boy, that's fancy.
there was a story that continued about this because it was about the architecture, and then when they built, I've seen the original old Smithsonian.
Wow.
But in the early 21st century, for about 10 years, the whole area out in front of the old buildings, they dug down, way down into the ground and all over the place. It was below the water table and stuff. And they created these 3 huge museums, which are underground. There's an African building, and there's another one, I forget what they are, but it's cool because they let light in by way of these kind of pyramids, like smaller ones. Then at the Louvre, you know, the big, huge pyramid that's outside that allows light to go down underground. But there's like 3 or 4 gardens now that have been established around it, and then this is all about the Smithsonian. This is basically the nation's cultural and artistic museums. There's plenty of them. And of course, as individuals, New York has many famous museums and such. That's on the original building and construction. So.
Wow.
Years and years and years ago, when I was early married to Robin, I went to visit her family, or particularly her grandparents, who lived in Arlington, Virginia. We went into Washington, and we went and did the mall, and fortunately, I don't know if they knew this ahead of time, but they made plans. We got to go to the National Gallery, which is in Washington, D.C., and they had this El Greco exhibit, and I was showing this to, you want to pull that down?
Which one?
Not before Michelangelo, the El Greco.
This or this?
No, the blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my older possessions.
Oh, this is a pretty.
I bought this probably around 1981 or 2, I think. Unfortunately, back in those days, I didn't write my books. Nowadays, I do kind of like a journal thing. I keep, where I got it. Yeah, this was at the time the first time in history the greatest assembling of the works of El Greco in mankind's history. Pulled from all over the world, and it was a traveling exhibit. It was hitting like 5 or 6 major cities in the world. Washington, D.C. in America, and it may have been either Chicago or San Francisco that I got it too. But then otherwise, there are other places around the world. Because the big museum that has a lot of his stuff is in Toledo, in Spain. But I got to see that, and I was so. I've always ever been impressed by El Greco's works. It's very emotional and actually kind of a little weird stuff. They actually believe now, they think that the reason they painted those elongated figures, and there's a certain kind of almost impressionistic coloring outside the lines kind of aspect of his work.
Yep.
Which in a way is like, in my mind, kind of like early Ives. But they actually think it may have been a visual issue for him, that he had something not quite right with his eyes.
Yeah.
That's the way he saw the world. And so he painted it. I was very Christian, spiritually influenced. So there's that aspect of the imagination and the visionary kind of things of his work. But I love this stuff. And the cool thing is, for the first time, there's a relative to Robin's mother's side of the family. They're Scots.
Yep.
Called the Calders. They're a Calder family from Scotland. William Calder, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that made the great mobiles.
Yeah.
There was one as high as a 2-story house and was in a huge room, the size of a house. This mobile that was hanging from the ceiling of this room at the entrance to the National Gallery. I don't know if it's a permanent part or was to the exhibition, but it was amazing. It was a mobile. Like we used to make in art class and school stuff. But this thing was huge. It was massive, and it had this wonderful sense of air and it moved, of course.
Well,
like they do.
It sure does.
It was balanced. It was had different things, different colors and things on it. But I saw a real huge Calder mobile. Ended up being in partnership with a distant relative of his. So, anyway, those are my things for this week that I found.
Well, Uncle Elmer here has been to the.
I'd say one more thing.
Oh, sure.
Just one more thing. I was so impressed with the Lydian String Quartet's performance of the Charles Ives string quartets.
Yeah.
I looked them up. Look them up. Lydian. They are in Massachusetts based. I think they came from the Boston, right? Is Amherst near Boston or something like that?
It might be. Why?
Oh, they're. I gather that they're connected somehow with the university around there, and a lot of times there's concerts at Amherst, Massachusetts. That might be where their home is. But there's an interesting story that, of course, compared to that group that was the Lydian String Quartet, I don't think they're all the same now. And there's a new first violinist that joined them in San Francisco. I don't remember. I've read so many things this week. She's also a Curtis person.
Wow.
But really amazing. Way out there in terms of extra techniques and looking into other areas, music making stuff, but she's fundamentally classical. But it's kind of like, the Kronos Quartet, who just also retired recently.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? I mean, I saw pictures of that. Oh my God, like Grandpa Kronos. They were burning bridges way back decades ago, focusing utterly on contemporary music and stuff. Once in a while, they do something like Shostakovich or something.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him
once in a
play
while.
Twice.
You saw Kronos?
Yeah, I saw Kronos, yeah. But I've actually, they'll be coming in. I found some more recordings of the Lydian.
You did.
Not it's there. I don't think there's any more Ives, but it's different than like John Harbison. But a lot of this stuff is contemporary repertoire, and now I know it's different people in the ensemble, but it's like I spent a lot of my lifetime for a while with the Priority Quartet in Madison. Well, they started out in 1912 or something.
Yeah,
Belgians,
right?
French-Belgian guys, and then they got kind of stuck in the States during the Blitzkrieg. Stayed there ever since, and then there were some different people. Rudolf Kolisch, who was a left-handed violinist and great friend of Arnold Schoenberg, was the leader for a long time. And then my mentor, Norman Powell, took over from him. There's a great cellist named Lowell Kreitz that was there forever. And then my piano teacher's son, Perry Karp, who was a finalist in the Tchaikovsky competition.
Wow.
He took over, and he's still there with them. I think he's the most senior member of the quartet now. But, the quartets, they have a certain kind of sound and style.
Yeah.
And when they hire a new person, what they're really looking forward to, this is where I said, an artist wants to put their own stamp on something like the piano.
Yeah.
I think that they're looking for a strong individual.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're used to the sound from the second violin being a certain kind of way, they're looking for somebody that's going to bring that kind of quality into the ensemble so that it doesn't necessarily change hugely. Because then the other players have to adjust perhaps to things. So I'm assuming that this slightly newer version of the Lydian is just as good as that recording was, which I think was done in the 80s.
Wow.
So that's 40 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. I have to look. But there's a really great page. If you look them up, their own page, Lydian String Quartet, and there's all kinds of information, and it shows all their CDs that they've done, and a lot of them are still available. You can get them and stuff. They've done. I'm interested too. I think one of them that I ordered is the late Beethoven String Quartets, because that's always interesting.
That's a real test.
You lay Beethoven in the hands of any really great string quartet, see what they do with it. I've got Quartetto Italiano, I got the Priority, I've got what was the Hungarian one? The Budapest, for example, and some other ones.
Wow.
And then it's Beethoven, but it can really have a different sound and feel to it. Okay, that's me. I'm done.
Okay, so I've been back at it, folks. I had to go play Indiana Jones once again over at the book sale. And so, now, sadly enough, it wasn't a complete bust, okay? Not a complete one. I mean, the guy, my inside man, that actually works at the library, told me that the location of this library and them preparing for a book sale, he says they had so much stuff, it was just the perfect storm. Is how he described it. The perfect storm. Were
the Sasquatches there?
Yes, they were. I think they overslept. They had their stuff right there at the door.
Ouch.
And I think they overslept or something, and nobody went over there to wake them up.
Oh,
And so as soon as the doors opened, I was still looking for them to see if they were coming, and they never came out.
Oh no!
I know the van, and
Maybe somebody killed them.
So, anyways,
or put something in their coffee.
Who knows? But I came out of there with my stuff and everything. Kathy actually showed up later.
Really?
Yeah, she showed up later. She came in when the general public was allowed to go in.
Which one was this you went to?
This is the one in Upper Arlington.
Upper Arlington.
Yeah. So, but anyways, like I
You
said,
go there a lot.
I'm sorry.
You go there a lot.
I go there.
How often do they do these sales?
They do this only 4 times a year.
Yeah.
It's 4 times a year.
Wow.
So, but like
That's
I said,
a serious house cleaning.
Oh yeah, some very serious house.
Wow.
So, anyways, I did find this interesting Ivory Classics CD.
Is it Mr.
That-
Wild?
This is Earl Wild's
Uh-huh.
own,
Label.
recording label,
Yeah.
and it's not Earl Wild.
Oh.
It's not Earl Wild.
Well,
Apparently,
this-
this was a used CD. This is a recording of one very young, 11-year-old Albert Wong. Don't know if you've heard of him.
I have heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, and
Was he a protege of What's His Prices?
probably.
Yeah, the producer's Michael Roland Davis.
Yeah.
He was long-term partner for a while.
Yeah, so I wanted to take the book out because this has stamps on it, and so. But this is a 11-year-old Albert Wong's CD recording of 5 Clementi piano sonatas.
Wow.
This can't be easy. 11 years old. This is an 11-year-old kid.
Look at these photographs. Did you look at this?
Yeah, I did.
The famous people he's with?
Yep, I did.
Oh, that's a hell of a book they put together.
Yeah, they do. These guys don't. These guys, they don't mess around. They put in some good articles and stuff.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Isn't it?
And look, he's here with it's a Perlman,
Yep.
Gata Kissen,
Yep.
Van Cliver,
Uh-huh.
John Nakamatsu,
Yep.
with Ruth Slazinski.
Ruth. Oh, come on.
This is not one of my favorite people.
I know she.
I met her.
I know you did.
talk and
You
everything.
had a master
At the
class with her
list.
too.
At the List Society thing that they had in Madison.
Okay. I
She
didn't
was
know.
there. Yeah. That's when I bought her book and kind of got excited and read it, and then I thought,
We have to.
this reminds me of the concentration camp attitude.
We will have to read that book.
Yeah, I
We have to
did.
talk about it.
I did. You can talk about it.
Okay.
I'll wince.
You'll wince. Okay. But we do have to talk
Look at this
about
little kid.
Look at
so
this
where is
11-year-old kid.
Fernleaf Abbey? Do you know Fernleaf Abbey?
That's in Columbus.
Yeah, I know. That's what it says. It's in Columbus.
It's
What is it,
somewhere.
Catholic place or
No, I think it's somewhere on. Indianola or Summit, nearby campus. Not that far, I think.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm guessing.
Huh.
I mean, I would imagine you could probably look it up.
Did you listen to any of it yet?
I did.
Is it nice
It's
resonance? and all
very
that?
good. It's
Kid
very
plays
good.
well.
Oh, the kid is good.
Yeah.
I tell you, he's a few things, a few words
Is this-
about Albert Wong.
20 years ago or something?
This is an old recording. He's
Yeah.
probably mid-20s at this point.
Hmm.
So, but this is not the only recording of his for Ivory Classics. He did record the Well-Tempered Clavier Book 1.
The whole damn thing.
And, oh yeah, all Book 1. And I tell you, Earl Wild says, I would imagine that he got some coaching from Earl Wild. He says what he likes about Albert Wong
Yeah.
is he does not copy.
Huh.
So everything you hear him do is all Albert Wong. It's not. I mean, he's probably does listen to recordings, but hand it to the kid. He's an original. He does not copy, according to Earl Wild. So, but anyways, this was probably the find of the day. After going through what they had over there. Now the other recordings. Let me see. What do I have here? Oh, here we go. A guy that we've talked about on occasion. The British pianist Benjamin Grosvenor.
Grosvenor.
Grosvenor. Well, how do you? It's got
I
an
know.
S in it.
I know you don't pronounce it.
You don't pronounce it. It's
Yeah.
Grosvenor.
Yeah, I don't know. British do that stuff, and it's because the word may have originally had a Saxon or a French origins,
Okay.
and then it's like, what do you call the sauce that you put on food that comes from England? It's because of the W.
Oh. Worcestershire.
Worcestershire, right?
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. Spelled WORCESTERSHIRE.
Yeah.
Worcestershire, Worcestershire,
Yeah,
Worcestershire,
yeah.
Worcestershire. And I heard that guy play
You did.
at the World Piano Conference in Novi Sad when he was like 17 years old. his teacher brought him, and he played as a special performance for us. I forget where we were. It wasn't on like one of the main concert stages. But it was more for him to play for us pianists.
Okay.
And it was like, I mean, there were some great pianists there from all over the place.
Yeah.
Russia, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, places in Europe. The Greeks refused to come because I was there, because I represented Cyprus, North Cyprus. And there's, tittle battle between the Greeks and the Turks about that. And I was technically an American, but representing a university in Turkey, Cyprus. So the director of the whole thing in Novi Sad said that there was a big to-do about it. There's supposed to be 3 to 5 Greek, a couple famous ones, going to come and perform and be there. And they all made a big, huge public statement about they're not coming because of me being there and stuff. And he told me about this in the office, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't figure this would have some political ramification." And the guy got his doctorate at Yale, so he speaks really good English, but he's Serbian. And he said, "Oh no!" He says, "This is some of the biggest publicity that we've ever got."
Publicity.
I'm grateful for it. He said, "We got international publicity because of this." He said, "We're really glad you're here. Thanks for coming." But Benjamin came, and his teacher introduced him. He was a tall guy, gangly, big, huge. I mean, it's like Van Cliburn, just kind of big, long arms, and the whole kind of thing like that. And I don't remember the repertoire per se, although I think he played one of Earl Wild's Gershwin transcriptions.
Oh, okay. Doesn't surprise me. You doing Chopra?
Genius. No, but playing. I mean, everybody was sitting there. It's like when Arthur Rubinstein said at the Chopin competition.
Yeah.
When Polini played.
Yeah, he left the competition far behind, is what he said.
Yeah, he just pretty much said, "This guy's plays better than any of us here at the table." That's the way this Grosvenor guy was. And famously, just recently in the news, he played the Busoni piano concerto.
Yeah, I figured.
And it got really big commendations.
Yeah.
And now, I didn't look at it yet, but today there was an article in the newsfeed from him about how insane it is to play the Busoni piano concerto.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. That's not.
Gunnar was famous for that.
Yeah,
he played it.
Let me be
made
sure.
a recording of it.
You got to see 11-year-old Albert Wong. I couldn't remember. I showed it to him.
Yeah, I looked him up. He looks like he's in his 20s. He recorded the second book of Bach and some other
Did
things
he?
by now.
Okay, I did not know that. And this is Benjamin Grosvenor. Records for Decca. There it is. On this Decca disc, we have the piano sonata of Liszt, the Berceuse, the sonnets, reminiscences of Norma, and the Ave Maria by sound transcription from Schubert. And in the program notes,
I'm surprised they're getting rid of this. This has to be a relatively new recording.
I don't know if it is or not, but apparently he has his grandfather to thank to introducing him to Franz Liszt's repertoire as a child. And so he's been playing the piano sonata since his teen years, he says.
That's surprising.
So his grandparents had passed away in 2020. And the request was that he play the Schubert Liszt Ave Maria for their funeral. And he didn't get to because of the COVID shutdown. So that's why I guess that's why he's putting it right here on the CD. It's the last work on the program. So, no, my introduction to Benjamin Grosvenor was on the International Piano magazine, where he was introduced in an article of when he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
He had recorded a few of the Brahms Chifra
Hungarian dances. So
Yeah.
I never found that recording, but
What is it about English pianists?
Yeah.
Now, this is not an entirely fair statement because I learned during the COVID period when we talked about. Well, I started to invest in obscure recordings
Yeah.
of unknown pianists. It's how we talked about this a long time ago about the French school of piano playing, for example. But then there's some recordings, and I don't know, it's not Pearl, I forget who it is, that does all these recordings, but there's British guys.
Yeah.
Just totally, like, definitely scratches part of the ice
Yeah.
cream and they fall out kind of thing. You never heard of them, but there's a guy that plays a bunch of Bach, and all those recordings are quite nice.
oh yeah,
Interesting. And you English people are going to be insulted by this. And I don't mean it that way. I'm just looking at it from a bigger perspective. Because I have a subscription to BBC Magazine and Gramophone.
Mhm.
And I do admire you guys' passion for high art, classical music, and so forth, and the contributions that listeners make to sharing their opinions, their thoughts about stuff to the magazines. We used to have that kind of thing in America, but I think the guitar and
yeah.
popular music
Popular
has just
rock and
run its
roll
way,
became its
and classical just everything. Unfortunately, here we don't have government subsidy of cultural stuff in the way that Europeans tend to.
yeah.
It has to pay for itself. And like I've got these wonderful recordings or magazines of what's it called? Can you pull it in?
Sure.
Freaking it.
Oh,
Wisdom,
wisdom.
which was back in the 50s and stuff. I found a whole bunch of these.
Jeez.
And there's no advertising. It's all from beginning to end. It's life-size. Show them one of them.
Okay.
It's a Life magazine size thing. Came from the 50s.
That's what I thought it was.
It's about somebody
Look at this.
famous, usually, or something. And it's all about culture and art and music. Arthur Rubenson's on this cover, one of them. Carl Sandburg's on another one.
Yeah.
This went on for a while.
This article.
It's like with Clifton Fadiman's work back in those days. Just devoted to high intellectual cultural pursuits and things like that. My teacher Ellsworth used to say to me when I studied in the late 80s and 90s, he said, there's a really strong anti-intellectual attitude in America nowadays. He said it was really respected and glorified because he said, to some extent, these are the guys that won the Second World War.
Mhm.
Soldiers, of course, did the footwork, the hard work, and everything. But the scientists and the corporate engineers and various people like that, those guys also created the stuff that the soldiers could win with.
Yeah.
You know, we beat the world because of our technological power and our schools and our training and everything. And this magazine kind of celebrates that whole grand American intellectual tradition.
Mm.
But it's a different scene nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
do we still have, like, Piano Quarterly's gone, right?
I think they are. I no longer have a subscription to
And
it.
there was Clavier magazine.
There's also
as well.
Clavier
But
magazine, Piano Quarterly, and International Piano, whatever.
Yeah,
I got you that one.
right,
The-
yeah.
So
But that stuff's unfortunately kind of gone by the wayside, at least in the 21st century, and I think it was heading that way when I was getting out of my doctorate in the mid-90s. Anyway, what I was going to say about England is all of that. Now, we talked about this. There have been occasionally some string players. Now, she's Scottish. What's her face? We featured her recently.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember
Violinist.
her name.
But I'm just thinking like famous English pianists
Okay.
compared to Central European, French, definitely Russians,
Yeah.
even Americans.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got people from South America, Cuba.
Mhm.
Now, there's some, like Peter Nero, for example, I'm thinking of, very, very fine pianist. Kind of crossed the
Yeah,
classical
consider a crossover
jazz thing.
Yeah.
But highly regarded, great English pianist. Now, that's not to say that locally again, that under the water iceberg thing. Plenty of them.
Oh
You
yeah.
guys got plenty of great people in your own country doing stuff. But the ones that break the big times usually are, and I don't mean this the wrong way,
Yeah.
but I'm going to say it to make a point. They're kind of circus freaks. Like Grosvenor.
Oh.
Grosvenor, I mean, when I saw the guy play live, I was sitting in the second or third row back from the piano.
Yeah.
It's just, he was a prodigious child. He was still very young.
Yeah.
Very, you got the impression at the time his whole world was the piano. I don't know if
Yeah.
he'd even ever dated or if he's gay or what, but like, no, so,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
kid like that was, wouldn't you like that a little bit pencils in the butt kind of geeky
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Super geeky, super closeted, super, I haven't heard enough of his playing to make a judgment about it. I wouldn't say as breathtakingly astonishing as Yun Chin Long.
No, you just
But
know it's different.
In that area of virtuosity, unparalleled virtuosity, the guy just did the Sony Concerto. Who the hell plays that?
Not many.
And I mean, when you think about him, there was like this guy, and of course, what was his name? We just talked Big Boy.
John Ogden.
John Ogden.
Yeah.
Right? Clifford Gerson was pretty big stuff way back. Howard, my teacher, Clark, talks about, when I don't know where the hell he was, but turning pages at some of Clifford Gerson's concerts. It was his page turner. Talked about him when we played stuff.
Boy.
He was a very popular and very busy pianist.
Oh yeah, he was.
And was, at least in Europe, highly recognized. Of course, big time was Myra Hess.
Uh-huh.
Huge, amazing
Legendary.
pianist. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Legendary.
Is it the school? I mean, I know there must be different pianists and teachers now, but Tobias Matte made a huge
So it's
impact on the British system, probably.
Oh yeah.
And Myra Hess was probably the most famous student.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on nowadays with things, but I mean, can you think of like other really famous British pianists?
Well, I brought him up once. Noel Newton Wood.
Yeah, he's the guy who died. Suicide?
It was suicide.
Yeah.
Suicide. He was
That
part
was
of
a homosexual relationship.
Yeah, he was with.
that or something?
Yeah, there was a trio of pianists
Back in the
passed away
bad
back
days
in the
when
day.
it was not cool
It was-
to.
Dino Lipati, William Capel, and the
Yeah.
least talked about was Noel Newton Wood.
Yeah,
They
some
all
very
part of the
interesting
same
history
generation.
recording.
And they,
Did something happen to his partner or vice versa?
yeah, it would happen to his partner. It's a very sad story.
Yeah.
For some time, he had been complaining of stomach pains, and he was prone to being hypochondriac, and so everybody just used to laugh at him and ignored him because he did this all the time. They said he does this all the time, and one day, I guess the last time he did it was the last time, and he passed away. And of course, Noel Newton Wood was so grief-stricken that he didn't believe him this time.
Yeah.
He just
But the way he killed himself, right?
he
Walked out on the beach,
walked
into the ocean.
He drove his car, parked it, put his shoes down by the car, and he walked off into the beach.
And walked into the ocean with his
Never
clothes
came
on and
back.
everything, and that was it. Imagine.
Yeah,
That's passion, I suppose. It's unfortunate.
yeah. Like I said, I mean, if I have it anywhere, I have a smaller vinyl record like this. And it's not a 45 or anything. It's a smaller record, On one side is the Concerto number 1 or number 2 of Chopin on one side, and then the Brahms Third Sonata on the other side. So, and I mean, it was my first introduction to the Brahms Sonata number
3.
3.
Yeah.
Because it's a 5 work.
Yeah.
So
we got off on this a little
that's
bit.
okay. But
I think it's a kind of, because, there was Barry Douglas, but he's Irish.
yeah, he's Irish. There's Peter Donahoe.
So is he English, Irish, or
No, he's
Scottish?
Irish. He's English. He's English. He's definitely English. Peter Donahoe, Louis Kettner.
Kenner was English. Yeah.
I think he's English. Yeah,
Didn't he play for our mentor, Yudi Menowin?
he may have. I
Kettner.
don't know that story. But he was president of the Liszt Society, and that guy has chops. He's recorded all this Liszt transcriptions. He did all the transcendental etudes.
I can't remember. This
But
is
he
he
also
eventually ended up in California. He was teaching out there.
Kettner?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
think
I just
so.
know about his work.
And you are talking like this is earlier 20th century.
Yeah.
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 That guy.
Yeah, that guy. So
I think he ended up playing for somebody. There's this connection there, I thought, with him and you. But anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Clearly, I mean, when you look at the
Howard
BBC
Shelley.
magazine or Grandma Shelley, there you go.
Howard Shelley.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'm a little wrong about this, but let's put it this way: it's a small country, right?
Yeah.
If you were to go from Cornwall in the southwest up to the Scottish border, it's pretty much if you drove from Cincinnati to northeast Cleveland. The state of Ohio that we're in. We're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That's about the same distance. England is approximately the size of Ohio.
Wow.
So maybe I was completely wrong in a sense, because how many world-class pianists, the people really knew their names,
Yeah.
have come from the state of Ohio
From the state of Ohio.
compared to England.
Oh gosh.
So actually, some of those names we mentioned, yeah, there's some people there. And I mean, what,
That'd
Germany?
be interesting.
Is Germany the size of Texas, or France is, something like that?
Yeah.
So you'd expect a few more folks, maybe. The percentage of the population coming out. But anyway, good for you. And I think it'd be an interesting recording to listen to,
Oh yeah, it is very
the
good.
list stuff. You heard all of it.
I've heard all of it. I've heard
Yeah.
all of this here.
Cool.
I've only got part way on this third CD here.
Oh.
Okay, this is a release from Virgin Classics. Take a good look at it. It's the Bartok Violin Sonatas.
Oh.
Bartok Violin Sonatas. Recorded by Christian Tetzlaff.
Oh, I love Tetzlaff.
Tetzlaff.
Wow, this is a new recording then. Relatively
Practically, well, I got it for $1.
Whoa.
Christian Tetzlaff and Leif of Ansness on the
Yeah.
piano. Take a good look at
Wow. Leif Ove.
it. Ove.
Leif Ove.
Leif Ove.
I love Tetzlaff. I heard. I don't remember, it was Mozart or Bach initially on OSU radio, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And then I subsequently read about him and listened to some other performances, and I have some of his stuff I bought. His wife's a cellist.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time I've
They
heard of
recorded
Tetzlaff.
together.
This is the first time.
Yeah, he's
I like
interesting
it
because he's
already. I
doing
mean,
the
it's
short haircut
wonderful.
thing now. But he had like the real, way down
Oh,
there.
like a David Garrett violinist.
There's some really good, and Leif of Jansness.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
This is really cool. This would be cool.
It is very cool.
So you listen to this too?
I've listened to the first sonata and part of the second sonata.
Wow.
I didn't get through the whole thing, but I've listened to about half of it.
Now, the Sonata for Solo Violin
That's the one I was getting to.
has a fugue in the second movement. The most incredible fugue playing I've ever heard by any musician, live anyway. was with Vartan Manoukian, who's an Armenian violinist, trained at Paris Conservatory. He was Ernest Anserme's concertmaster for the Swiss Romane for a period of time. And he ended up being an artist teacher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He was a smaller kind of guy, maybe 5'6", in very perfect shape and always perfect. His hair was a lot of wave in it, and black hair, kind of handsome features.
Wow.
And he always wore this outfit, which kind of had the Bruno Walter kind of jacket, with a button up with kind of a Chinese collar in a way. And it was a coat that came down like this with the black pants every day. He was always dressed this way. Sometimes I saw him in a suit and tie, but more or less that's the way it was. He did a performance where he came out and he played the Bartók unaccompanied sonata, and it's a fugue on 4 strings with 4 fingers.
How do you do that?
I mean, we got 88 keys, Bach doesn't use all of them, maybe 50
10
something.
fingers.
And 10 fingers.
Yeah.
And they're hard enough to play.
Yeah.
And it was breathtaking. Every single line, every voice, and when he was playing 3 voices at the same time together, you could hear them like it was a string trio. It was an amazing performance. That is one of the most incredible things I've ever heard in my life. And then, in the second half, Howard comes out, and they do the Busoni second sonata with all those variations in it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite compositions. I love it. I forget it. I've got 2 different recordings of it, but I love the Busoni second violin sonata. And again, it was just between him and Howard. It's one of the most extraordinary concerts I've ever heard in my life, anywhere in the world. So good for you.
Yeah.
That's quite a little acquisition.
Yeah,
right
this, I mean, as far as pianists go, this guy is superhuman. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just listening to, and it's a violin sonata. It's a violin sonata. And the piano part in here, I just can't imagine how much work it takes. I mean, you would have to do the same kind of work on a violin sonata as you would on a Bartók's piano concerto.
Well, you know, the tradition of
Holy
the
crap.
violin piano sonatas goes back, I'm sure, quite a ways, all
Yeah.
the way to the Italian guys. But famously, at least the earlier Mozart sonatas,
Yeah.
they're basically written for the piano with the violin playing along.
Yeah.
You know, then the
Not
violin
this.
does not have that kind of independent part. And
Not this.
both Beethoven and Brahms, when you see the original titles,
Yeah.
Sonaten für Klavier und Violine,
Yeah.
not Violine und Klavier.
Yeah.
They're sonatas for piano and violin. And of course, you know, when you get to Beethoven, and especially the Brahms,
Yeah.
powerfully written parts for both instruments.
Yeah.
Nothing in the way of like, chicky, 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 for the piano.
Yeah.
None of that shit.
Yeah.
Even though Mozart is more sophisticated, but the whole tradition of that stuff. Now the Beethoven cello sonatas, those are the Opus 2s. Those I made that mistake. No, Opus 5. Opus 5. Those first 2 sonatas, and in all 5 of them actually, Beethoven uses those cello sonatas as experiments in form and keys and various kind of things. They're very revolutionary type works, every single one of them. And the cello sonatas are interesting in that they're really terribly virtuosic for both instruments. I mean, big time. Piano has a lot of work to do, of course.
Sure
Beethoven.
does.
But the cello really has a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out who he wrote them for.
Yeah.
But my point is that you want to have a really great pianist and a great piano violin duo
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, because the composers realized that the tradition comes out of a very strong piano part. You know?
Yeah.
And interestingly, most of these great works, especially when they come from, well, the Hungarians and the Germans,
Oh yeah.
composers were pianists.
Oh yeah. That's for sure. I
So-
mean, there's no doubt about that.
Beethoven, Brahms, Mendelssohn, Schumann.
Mhm.
Uh, and then you get in the 20th century, Barber was actually a pianist.
Yeah.
Not a concert pianist, but Bartok played his own third concerto, made a recording of it.
Oh yeah. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's recorded a lot of his piano works. So to conclude this segment, I found this work at the library. And his name comes up in our conversations once in a while. It's an original piano work by this guy, but it's not complete. It's incomplete. This young man, this composer, studied with Franz Liszt, and at some point, he was talented, and his playing was quite impressive. That he was actually compared to Karl Tausig.
Oh,
So, and I could see why they would make the
is it
comparison.
Dalbert?
It is Dalbert, Eugen Dalbert.
Cavall de Musette. Oh,
Yeah, and like I said, it's not complete. It's from the suite Opus 1, so it's for his Opus 1. The other, and, in actuality, all right, I took notes. It's there's actually 5 movements. Okay, it opens with the Allemande. The second movement is a Courant. The third movement is Sarabande, and the fourth movement is a Gavotte and Musette with a da capo
oh, I know this.
To the-
Gavotte.
Gavotte, and then the fifth movement is a Gigue. A Gigue. And so,
The Gavotte's very famous. This
Yeah.
piece appears in piano book collections, old ones. For the
Yeah.
region. Yeah, pa 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 pum pum pa dee da 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 dum. Pa 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 pum pum pa dee da 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 dum. Yeah, I recognize that.
so basically it's a dance suite.
Is he the one that was married to Teresa?
Teresa Carreño. He was married to Teresa Carreño.
And he was a shorty kind of guy.
He was a short guy.
I guess he made up in different areas.
We'll never know. We'll never know. I've only seen a few pictures of him from Harold C. Schoenberg's The Great Pianist. It's got the side profile of him sitting at the piano.
Yeah.
It's got all that hair and that big bushy mustache.
Yeah.
So, what can I say about this work? It's
It's fascinating.
it's okay.
Late 19th century
Yeah,
for Baroque music, but from a very romantic point of view.
yeah,
You definitely see with phrasing, articulation,
yeah.
multiple voicing kind of stuff. It's not Baroque, but it's their idea of it, and probably influenced a lot by Liszt's organ transcriptions, and some people were taking Bach and reorchestrating it and things like that in those days. So
I'll tell you what this is. Have you ever listened to the Hallberg Suite by Grieg?
Greek, yeah,
Okay,
yes,
this is
Yeah.
Grieg's Hallberg Suite on steroids.
yeah,
It's got octaves
I
in
get
it.
that.
It's got it's got some runs, but not so much that it's made for anything that'll sweep off your feet or anything. It's just written in a manner that it's more contrapuntal.
One might say that this, compared to some other compositions by pianist composers,
Yeah.
this was probably manufactured for the playing audience at the time. And it says something about the quality of the amateur pianist who would be able to play something like this.
I don't know. It's for amateurs. So.
Well, I'm talking 19th century.
Okay.
One's not people nowadays, but my impression of when you look at the music that was like Brahms wrote for these
Yeah.
quote unquote amateur choral groups
Oh,
in
yeah.
the late
Yeah.
19th century Vienna,
Uh-huh.
this is tough shit.
Oh yeah.
And yet he wrote it for them, dedicated to them, which means they did it.
Yeah.
And when I look at the collections of music from the late 19th century that the Menneker have in the library,
Yeah.
those people were pretty decent. Really,
Oh, yeah.
quite more than decent. They were pretty good
Oh yeah.
in terms of their skills and what they had. Once again, what did you have otherwise? You know, maybe you had your job, you ate,
Yeah.
maybe made love once in a while, went out to the cafe.
Listen to the radio.
No,
You're talking before that?
19th century.
Oh, you're talking about the same.
No radio, no TV. I mean, concerts here and there and stuff like that. But,
Morning, afternoon.
mastering your own interests in time. I mean, I think, for example, 19th century British amateur scientists contributed hugely to the scientific arena in England in the 19th century. They were oftentimes, landed gentry kind of folks that had money, but a lot of time on their hands and a lot of discipline. And they brought a level of mastery to their work, which in terms of science for sure contributed greatly to insights and achievements in British science, 19th century. And to some extent in America, maybe we were also inventors and creating and trying new things and stuff. And it was a wonderful time in some ways because we have the opportunity in this day and age to waste so much time.
Yeah, we do.
Some people might argue that's what we do with our shows on YouTube.
No.
But we don't think that way.
No. This takes a lot of work, folks. Believe me.
More like just, well, they sure talk a long time.
Yes. Okay, well,
How we doing?
we're doing pretty good. We're doing 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Okay.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you handle the
Well,
next one
I
yourself?
think
for a
so.
minute?
I think
I'm
so.
going to disappear for minutes.
Okay, well, I'll
Be back.
give us a station break then. Okay, folks.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
This
And
guy better pay up eventually.
oh, one of these days, perhaps, we'll get their support. Okay, a break from our station break here. This, folks, are you tired of those blurs? Are you tired of fingerprints all over the top of your pianos or the fall board? Are you just plain tired of looking at dust or anything like that? Well, have I got the remedy for you. This is Corey's piano polish. Get one of your own, okay? This is for super high gloss pianos. I've been using this probably for the last 30 or so years. 30 years. Yeah, and it works great. As well, most of you pianists know that pianos can be a real dust collector, and you're going to need this. I take this wherever I go, whenever I play at church or playing at a school, playing at the store. Okay, but get one of your own. Comes in a nice, sweet squeeze bottle. The top, nice cap. There, it works. So, and by the way, if you order one of these now, they also have a new line of products to clean off your keys. So I'm told about that. But anyways, there it is. Corey, piano polish. There is no substitute. Get it. Okay. Welcome back, folks. And before I forget, if you've been a loyal viewer of our show, I'd like to give you all an update on what's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. Here it is, the Dover edition of Walter Gieseking and Carl Leimer's Piano Technique. Get your copy today. It's from Dover. We will be discussing this book pretty soon, as soon as I get started reading the book. Okay, anyways, there it is. This is
Walter Gieseking is one of Marc's favorite pianists. Mine too. He's wonderful. We'll also be reviewing this book. It's Leschetizky's Method, written by Malvina Bray. Did I get it?
Yep.
Malvina. Take a look at it. Yes. And this one, Alexander Peskanow's The Russian Technical Regimen for the Piano, published by Willis. 6 books. 5 books of exercises. This one is introduction. Okay. So we've just concluded High Plains Thrifter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I told them all about Corey's. Okay, next segment. Well, I don't know. We've introducing the next segment. I hope okay, I'll do the best I can. Every once in a while, we pianists, we musicians, or everybody in general. Okay. Life deals us, a card that doesn't really, make us happy. When we find ourselves in a dark place, and whether it's an unexpected event or losing someone, time heals wounds. It may take time, but eventually we find that light at the end of the tunnel. I want to use this moment as the prelude to our next segment, PSI at the movies.
Hey,
Here we
movies.
Yes, it is. Yes. I'm waiting for it. I hear it, but I don't smell it.
And we're back.
Oh, there's the smell. I was wondering where it went. I could hear the popcorn popping, but I couldn't smell it. But now I smell it. You didn't do that, did you?
Mr. Wagner.
Oh, God, I hope not.
No.
So, anyways.
He eats it.
He eats it.
He won't make it, though.
Oh, God. So, all right, like I said, I tried to give the prelude as best as I can for this next movie. This is an old movie, and it's a movie that we talk about every once in a while. Are you ready for it, folks? It's not shown on television very often, but you can't even find this on YouTube either. You can see clips of it, but here it is.
Night Song. I knew you were
Night
gonna go
Song.
there. I love Night Song.
Night Song. Yes. It stars Dana Andrews, Merle Oberon, and Ethel Barrymore.
This is the one with Arthur Rubinstein and Eugene Ormandy in it.
Yes.
And Hoagie Carmichael.
And
who's
Hoagie
Dana
Carmichael.
Andrews' roommate. They share an apartment together.
Yes. And
I saw this, I think it was on American Movie Classics.
it sure
It
was.
used to be.
For Turner?
Do they still do? Well, no. Before it was Before American Movie Classics became the Night of the Living Dead stuff channel. No, what is that called? The zombie crap.
Oh, The Walking Dead.
I have a subscription that I took out for AMC, but I think I'm gonna let it go. It's good for what it is, and there's some good things on there. They try their best and stuff, but just very horror. Zombie-oriented kind of programs and stuff, and it's not my cup of tea.
Well, try
But
TNC.
who took over?
Yeah.
Was Turner
Movie Classics.
TMC. Turner
TNC.
Movie Classics. I used to, when I go visit my dad, it was a wonderful thing. Dad gave me the back bedroom. There's a TV in there, and he had cable hooked up to it. And I didn't have it here. I don't have cable. I haven't actually never bought cable here in America. But, since I moved back from Europe. But Dad had it, and it had TMC. And you can't get TMC on anything but cable.
Yeah.
They don't have like an independent service or anything like that. They should, but Oh my God, I used to love it because I go, and it was just so, it was like being on vacation, just go and stay with Dad. He had, his own schedule during the day. We'd go out at night to eat,
Mhm.
and you could stay up really super late because he was a night out too. He was taking his medicine really late at night,
Mhm.
and he'd eventually go to bed. But I'd go in there, and we'd watch some stuff together, and then I'd just like, I just always had the TV mostly turned to TMC. And watching all that old wonderful movies and
Yeah.
everything. It's just something I associate very happily with being at my dad's. And between my father and that station, just connecting to a time that my father lived through and knew well and loved. And it was a way, I suppose, of me connecting to the spirit of things. So anyway, this is a wonderful movie.
Yes, it is a wonderful movie.
If you're into classical music and hard on sleeve stuff, and a little bit of like a Celebrity Geek,
Yeah.
the time when he actually meets Rubinstein and Ormandy in
Ormandy,
the
yeah.
hall off stage,
Yeah, it was.
and they act a little bit as
Yeah.
corny and
I love the way they laugh
Yeah.
at each other. They kind of turn, oh, they walk off.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Rubinstein, it's a wonderful composition, my man.
yes. But if anything, have you ever seen the actual performing the concerto?
Yeah,
It's
they do it in the movie.
astonishing. Yeah, they do it in the movie.
Yeah, and
That's-
he's doing this Rubinstein stuff,
Yeah,
with the hands.
But
and
then,
everything.
what just as astonishing, there's a trill written in the composition.
Yeah.
He does it with 2 hands.
Yeah.
Trill. I was astonished by it. Oh my gosh!
Rubinstein
You know how
could
to
be-
do that?
He can
Oh
be
my
a showman
gosh.
when he needed.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
it's cool. They wrote a concerto.
Yes, they
The
did.
guy's name was
Leith
Stevens. Leith
Yes.
Stevens
Leith
actually wrote that concerto, and it lasts like about 12 minutes or something.
Something like that.
And who's the orchestra?
The orchestra.
It's Eugene Ormandy's directing it.
Yeah. Look, it is the New York Philharmonic.
It is New York Philharmonic, Eugene Ormandy, and Arthur Rubinstein in really totally Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
It's all recorded there,
Yeah.
and they do the whole performance.
They do the whole performance.
And you just get to see this music performance
Yeah.
on tape, and it's for that period of time in a way. I mean, I've learned subsequently. There's a lot of stuff up there with Rubinstein from the old days,
Yeah.
but this is kind of pretty cool because it's 1940s after the war, right?
1947.
Yeah. To see a full concerto performance on film from that period,
Yeah.
and that's because it was a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. So they only had a lot of the.
You haven't watched this thing.
I have not opened it
You
yet.
haven't opened. Where'd you
No.
find this bugger?
I had to get it on Amazon.
Really?
So I paid
You
full
went
price
online
this.
for it?
I did.
Look at you.
Well, actually, Kathy did. So
Look at you.
anyways, Night Song, 1947 film, released on January 28th, 1948. It stars Dana Andrews, who plays the character Dan Evans, Merle Oberon, who plays Kathy Mallory / Mary Willie.
She was. It wasn't. No. Go ahead.
All right. Hoagie Carmichael plays himself.
Yep.
Ethel Barrymore plays Miss Willie. I guess
Barrymore, she's
she's
great in this movie too.
yeah, she plays the mother.
Yeah.
So Arthur Rubinstein's in it. He got one of the top higher billings for this movie. Donald Curtis plays George. Jacqueline White plays Connie, and Eugene Ormandy, he's himself. So I wanted to give the cast members at least down to Ormandy, but it's a huge cast for just this one movie. Huge cast. Now, the staff members. John Cromwell is the director. Frank Fenton is the writer of the screenplay. Dick Irving Highland and DeWitt Bodine are both writers of the original story. Harriet Parsons is the producer. Lucien Ballard is the cinematographer. Let's see. Now, to the more important part, the music. Musicians. The music department. Once again, Leith Stevens. Leith Stevens is the composer of the piano concerto, and that's as far as he goes because the other, the soundtrack music to this is composed by one Konstantin, and you mentioned him earlier today, Bakalennikov.
Bakalennikov. Mm-hmm.
He's a composer for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Let's see. And as we've mentioned before, the New York Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra is the orchestra.
Wow.
Eugene Normandy, conductor, Arthur Rubinstein, pianist, and Hoagie Carmichael.
Hoagie is great.
Yes.
If I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to meet. We should do a segment on Hoagie.
On Hoagie?
Sometime. Yeah.
Okay.
Boys from farmland in Indiana. You know, the place where he came from is like a famous museum now in Indiana. Indiana, what is Indiana? Indiana is
Cowtown.
flat. I mean,
I remember going.
Indiana is the state that the rest of the Midwest makes fun of.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, to be from Illinois, that was Lincoln's from Springfield.
Yeah.
And then there's Chicago.
Yeah.
Ohio is very important. We produced
yeah.
like 7 presidents.
Yeah.
And then in between is Indiana. Indiana is just kind of flat, mostly, till you get down around the Ohio River. Yeah. Well, they do have Bloomington, Indiana University, which is like, how do you fit that together with the rest of the state?
Yeah.
One of the greatest music schools in the world.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis is kind of a cool town. There's some stuff.
Home of the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, well, the race car thing, and then they got a basketball team that's been pretty renowned.
Hoosiers?
Didn't basketball start in Indiana?
It may have.
I think the farmer cut the bottom out of a basket and they try to throw the ball in the basket.
Yeah.
That was how they did it.
But
historically, Ohio was the western frontier in Jefferson's presidency and for a while. This is the early 19th century. And Ohio was a place for American citizens to go, especially religious practicing peoples who were, well, they wanted to do their own thing in their own space and their own way. So they set some of that stuff up here. Like, for example, the largest concentration of Amish Mennonites, what they call them, Anabaptists, is not in Pennsylvania. It's in central and central eastern Ohio. There's more of them in Ohio than there is in Bucks County and all over Pennsylvania. Wow. You go up there, and actually, Laura and Laura and I just went shopping for the first time at Yutzy's Farm Market, YUTZY', which is out east of here in a Mennonite area. What's the Amish area called out there? The town, Plains City.
Okay.
It's out Plains City area, Ohio. You see buggies and stuff like that. The Amish there, but this is Mennonite kind of thing. Wonderful outdoor market. We've got beautiful tomatoes. These little yellow things are just like candy. Yellow tomatoes. Wow. And Laura found this magnificent bread and butter pickle spears. Delicious with sliced onions in it and stuff. No crap.
Right.
Nothing, like you see in classic or stuff in the stores. We also did some different vegetables that are local, like the corn is yellow and white, sweet corn, all that. And then we went into the enclosed market area. And if you've ever been in one of these places, it's a Mennonite grocery store. I mean, they got a lot of stuff in there, and it's all hand-packed and everything. But primarily I went in there for the deli.
Yeah.
They got their own stuff that's Mennonite manufactured. And got sales every week. I got the honey ham, pan-roasted chicken, and baby Swiss. Lars made me a couple sandwiches with both of them, with the cheese on some wonderful rye bread. I'm talking deli quality taste, really good stuff. So anyway, how the hell did I get into this?
Because he wanted to talk about Hoagie Carmichael.
Indiana. Yeah, so I think we should do that at some point because when you see him in the film, he's like born to be an actor,
Oh, sure he is.
and he does it. He's so totally natural and believable because I understand that when he was on, that was the way it was. He was just that way. The interesting thing is that there was a side of him. They said when he was composing or writing at his home or something like that, when he wasn't out on tour and doing stuff, very quiet, very serious. He was married to his wife for a long time. It's like he was a monster, huge celebrity as a composer, as a performer and a composer and all that. He was up there post Gershwin, like Gershwin, you know. I mean, if Gershwin had survived, he might have had a hard time of it, but he pretty much filled a hole that was left. And the really cool thing is that there was a kind of Midwestern ways about him. I mean, he was devoted to his wife and his family. He had a bunch of kids, daughters, I think.
Did not know that.
And when he wasn't in Hollywood, when he wasn't in New York, when he wasn't on the circuit and everything, he went back to the family farmstead in Indiana, just flat down, you know.
Yeah.
The views are beautiful. I mean, if you just like empty sky and sunlight and clouds and fresh
Country air.
But he's wonderful. And of course, he plays, sings.
Yep.
I love Hoagie Carmichael. One of his most favorite songs is Stardust, right?
Stardust. That's his.
Stardust is his piece.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know a whole lot about Hoagie Carmichael. I really don't. My first introduction to him was when he made an appearance on the Flintstones.
What?
He did. He made an appearance
As a cartoon character?
As a cartoon character. He was Hoagie Rockmichael.
No way.
Yep, he was Hoagie Rock.
I don't know if I ever saw
Hoagie Rockmichael or something. Oh, Fred and Barney. They somebody came up with. Well, Fred came up with some concocted idea about becoming songwriters. So he found out that Barney plays the piano. So they're sitting there in his house and they're trying to come up with a song. And basically, he plagiarizes Stardust.
Oh no.
You know. So, but they don't know it though. They don't know, and you'll recognize it. I mean, you heard
technically,
it.
they're way back in the dinosaur days, so they wrote it before. Hoagie must have stolen it from Fred.
So, anyways, so they decide they want to get the song published. So they bring it to this. They bring it to the publishers, and they try to sing the song, and they sing. So Fred tries to sing it, and he says, and he gets to the end of the song. So he says, "Are you gonna?" He says, "Are you gonna take a bite of this?" He says, "No, but you will, and you might find the smaller pieces, easier to swallow." And he takes the song and smashes it on Fred's head.
Because it's a stone tablet.
It's a stone tablet,
right?
basically. So he throws Fred and Barney out of his office, you know, and then here comes in Hoagie Carmichael, or Rockmichael in this sense.
Rockmichael.
You know, he says, "Hey," he says, "those guys that just left the office, they left their briefcase." He says, "Oh, well, don't worry about it. They're not very talented anyways." And so, anyways, the briefcase is still open.
Uh-oh.
And so they look inside.
Oh, no.
And Hoagie looks at it and says, "Hey," he says, "what's this?" He says, and they're looking at it, and it's got only one word on it.
Stardust.
No. It says, "Yabba Dabba Do." And they're like looking at each other, "Yabba Dabba Do." And the publisher says, "Hoagie," he says, "I think you could make a song out of that."
Oh, does he?
And he says, "Yeah, he does. He does eventually." He says, "Oh, come on, Yabba Dabba Do." That's so. He says, "Hoagie, you haven't had a hit song in years." He says, "This is your chance. They left it here. This was fate and destiny that's calling for you. You're going to write a song based on that word." And he does, you know. So
that's cool.
So and for a 20-minute cartoon, it was actually pretty good.
Now you guys know the Flintstones are, right?
Yeah.
Or were, but
are.
are.
Yeah.
I know Do they still make movies or cartoons about them even to this day?
Well,
They did a while back.
they did a while back, but I don't think
Roseanne's husband did.
John Goodman.
He
Yeah,
played Fred.
he played
At least
Fred.
in one of them, right?
Yeah,
They did some Flintstone movies. But I think the great Flintstones is the classic 1960s
yeah,
cartoons.
yeah.
They're so hilarious. And you know, it's a takeoff of The
The
Honeymooners.
Mooners. I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, Jackie Gleason's
Jackie
TV
Gleason.
show. And if you've never seen that, that's classic.
Oh yeah, it is.
I mean, that's one of the early great shows in American television history. And it had such a massive influence. Because The Flintstones is basically a cartoon version of Jackie Gleason and The Honeymooners. The two couples. One of these days! Pow! To the moon!
Kiss her. Yes.
To the moon, Alice!
So
He never really meant it.
no, he didn't. He
And
lost it.
she's feisty as
Yes.
a castle.
So, anyways, more on the movie. Leith Stevens as the composer. He's had quite a following here. He wrote the music for the 1956 movie Julie, which featured Leonard Penario.
Wow.
Featured Leonard Penario's playing Midnight on the Cliffs. He also did the 1959 movie Gene Krupa story.
Gene Krupa?
Yeah, Gene Krupa starring Sal Mineo.
Jeez, I didn't know he had that much. I knew about this.
Yeah, but look at this. He also did the music to War of the Worlds, 1953. Yeah, no kidding.
The War of the Worlds?
War of the Worlds.
Wow.
Orson Welles.
The movie.
The movie. Yeah. He also did When Worlds Collide, 1951.
Holy God, these are all big movies.
These are very big movies. Whoa, but look at this big one. This one was a Marlon Brando movie, The Wild One, 1953. Leith Stevens.
Wow.
Here's the other one. World Without End, 1956.
I heard of that too.
So, but anyways, and this is not all, I mean, it's not complete, but it's some of the highlights in his career.
Well, that's pretty amazing because he sounds like the John Williams of his time.
Oh,
I mean, those are all pretty big movies.
Yeah.
I know all those titles.
Yeah.
And did not know that he was the composer for them.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was.
That's like, man, in Hollywood, if you write a big one,
Oh yeah. If you're Korngold or Max Steiner.
somebody gets on you and look at, I mean, he deserves everything, John Williams.
Oh,
All
yeah.
success in what he's done. I remember seeing a video a while back. I don't know if it was on the Berlin thing, because it wasn't Berlin. It was the Vienna Philharmonic.
Mhm.
And it was a video I was watching. Anyway, it was on, I don't have TV, but it was on the TV.
Yeah.
I don't know how I saw it. But that was a big thing, because I think Sophie Mutter was there and played his
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah.
And he had these pieces of various movie things that he was conducting with the Vienna Philharmonic. And then they wanted to surprise him. And they did not have it on the program. But the music, bum, 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 ba, bum, ba, bum,
Yeah.
that kind of brass stuff from
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was not officially on the program, but the brass players of the Vienna Philharmonic desperately wanted to play it.
Oh no!
So they convinced the rest of the orchestra to learn the piece.
Yeah.
And then they made an announcement during the concert. And John Williams was totally not expecting it. But he's just like doing a little thing, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then they start playing. And then he conducts them in it.
Oh.
Kind of passively, because they clearly worked it out. But it probably does help to have him made mistake and stuff. But you can just see the smile on his face. And on the Vienna Philharmonic, they played the shit out of it. It was really wonderful. And I've been seeing all this news about him. He's getting so much international respect and recognition for what he's written.
Oh yeah.
I remember when I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
When we saw that movie, that was a scary movie back in those days. It was some scary shit. Like when the hillbillies are up in the mountains and wherever, and these spaceships go by on the highway.
Yeah.
And they're just there. Yeah, we're out to watch them lights tonight. You know, they're like the people there. It's like Richard Driving.
Yeah.
Some about more serious-minded people. This is a bunch of redneck doodle bums,
Yeah.
and there they come. But then this stuff like when they go into the town and there's the dead sheep on the thing, and all the people wearing the gas masks and all that, and they know that something's not right. But holy God, when the mothership shows up there on the top of the mountain and all that.
Yeah.
The really scary part, though, more scary on its own. And I've got the LP.
Yeah.
I think is it 2 records?
Yeah.
Zubin Mehta, and I think New York Philharmonic, or is it Los Angeles? But I'm not sure who it is. But it's Zubin Mehta's conducting it. It's the John Williams' music from the movie Star Wars.
Close
Close Encounters.
Yeah.
Some of that choral stuff, where they're that kind of sound they do, those kind of these clashing.
Yeah.
Those is stuff. My God, that makes the hair stand up on my back,
Yeah.
my neck. It's really effective stuff. Spooky. Whether you know the movie or not, doesn't them strings playing from Psycho, Bernard Herrmann?
Oh yeah.
Didn't that light you up a little bit?
Boop,
boop, boop, boop, boop, boop, boop.
Yep.
And there's another one, Bernard Herrmann.
Oh yeah. Big time.
There's the box set. It's not smallish, but of his works written for film. It was a little pricey. I haven't considered really getting it yet, but for what it is, it's a little bit much. But Bernard Herrmann was also one of the great ones.
Oh yeah, he was.
I love the music. He wrote the music for the original Journey to the Center of the Earth with James Mason and Baboon and such.
Yeah.
And some great. I love the theme, the opening music, is with the organ and the music, and it's really cool because it's just the brass is like just blasting. But what's really cool is that it kind of chromatically just melts down. It keeps getting lower and lower and bassier and bassier and bassier. It's just impossibly bassier on the organ with these deep brasses, bass tubas and stuff like that. And of course, it's symbolizing their descent into the center of the earth with all the volcanic heat and all that kind of stuff. Brilliant concept,
Sure is.
And it reminds me of a story where Igor Stravinsky was approached about writing some music for film because he was interested. He's in America. He's realizing, how much did you get paid to do that? So, so it became known that this guy Igor Stravinsky might be interested in writing because he talked to Max.
Max Steiner.
I don't know, it was Steiner or I forget the other one.
Nicholas Rocha.
Nicholas Rocha, possibly. Somebody.
Yeah.
He talked to somebody and found that. What'd you get paid for that? So there was a connection made.
Yeah.
And they pressured him. And I mean, he had a monster reputation.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Stravinsky, it's not really Hollywood stuff, but, they figured we could probably work together, figure something out.
Yeah.
So he says, well, we're looking at hour and 30 minutes movie, something like that, maybe hour and 40 minutes. How long would it take you to write the music? Stravinsky, the way he worked is he'd do little things and put it up on his monster bulletin board, pull it all together. And he was, a good worker, very, systematic and all that. He said, minimum 2 years. Those gotta go.
2 years?
No, we were thinking more like 2 months. Stravinsky said, well, I could probably get a couple of the ideas up on the board. So Stravinsky never wrote for the films.
Oh, that's good.
Just as there's another great film writer.
Yeah.
Prokofiev.
Prokofiev, yeah.
Alexander Nevsky.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
I have the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen the movie.
The movie with Prokofiev's music and the choruses and everything.
The largest
That
cast.
is a tour de force. scores. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's Eisenstein, isn't it? Who did the film?
Alfred Eisenstein. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, they would. Let's see. They would do a re.
Sergei Eisenstein.
It was Sergei. That's right. They would eventually do a redubbing of the music score with the Moscow's or St. Petersburg Symphony with Yuri Termikhanov.
Yeah, I don't know how to say
Termikhanov
his
or
name.
something like
Yeah, I know
that.
what you mean.
Yeah, but they did a redubbing of it instead of the old one. So, but anyways, it's 2:37, 2 hours and 37.
We probably should
We should
call him.
So, folks, if you enjoyed our company, enjoyed the topics,
This was good.
yeah, this was
The last week, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Last week was about 2.5 hours ish.
It was about 2.5 hours. This is close.
It really flowed.
Oh yeah.
I was really impressed that I found it interesting all the way from beginning to end.
I did too.
I thought it was good. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff we talked about.
Yeah.
Let's hope maybe this one will do the same thing.
I'm sure
This was cool.
this was very cool.
We
And
really get going with that
I
thrifter
know,
stuff.
we sure do. We sure did. But
And I like the movie things. We talked about Intermezzo a while ago.
we did.
And now we got Night
Now
Song.
we got Night Song.
How much did you pay for it?
Not much. Okay. Anyways, it wasn't. I think it was somewhere around $10. It
Yeah.
wasn't very much.
Cool.
So, but anyways, if you enjoyed our content, you enjoyed our company, please favor us with a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Favor us with a thumbs up. Ring that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes.
And
Subscribe.
yeah, subscribe, people. Just
Subscribe.
all it means, you become a follower and you subscribe.
Yeah.
And
Won't cost you anything.
no, and then you just get a little notification. Here's the next show. You can watch it and what you want, everything. The subscription numbers is what really helps us.
Oh, yeah.
Because as those begin to climb,
Comments. Comments.
the viewers are important, but the subscriptions are too. At some point, I don't know what the base number is, but I think it's in the thousands.
Okay.
But
We'll do what we can, folks.
that's when they say, oh, they got some substantial viewership going on here. Let's tag on some different things to their page,
Yeah.
And
We're bringing it all to you.
and then we start to maybe get compensated for a little bit of our years of training and expertise and work that we do, putting these shows together and trying to bring something interesting to you and contributing to the musical archaeology of the great iceberg of classical music history. Chip, 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 chip.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, this is Mark.
yeah, and this is Elmer, and we are PSI Piano Scene Investigations. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
See you the next time. Oh, the boys will probably be back from camp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be back.
Most of them are.
They're still alive.
Yeah.
I understand they got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, good. They can't wait to hear it. The good thing is they didn't call me up in the middle of the night to tell them to pick them up.
Well, they should both be back. Well, anyway, we'll all see you next time, which would be number. This is 29.
So
The next show is
30.
30 shows.
I can't believe we've done this 30.
Wow.
30 shows.
Okay, bye bye.